Where have you been? We're supposed to be collecting souls for the Great Unhatched. Dude, we need to hit our quota or we're gonna get fired. Again.
Sorry, man. I just finished a year-long vow of silence. Also, I needed a break, so I went to this weird underground laboratory.
Dude, you haven't been keeping up. What? What is he saying?
I don't know. He's too far away.
Hey, pigs. You have failed to do the one thing I hired you for. Explain yourself.
Oh, great and mighty Exothoth. Have you any idea how hard it is to find individuals that are pure in this day and age?
Maybe it's about time to get involved with the Overwatch community.
Silence!
For your failure,
Since the suffering punishment's most abhorrent.
you'll be a warrior fighting not only horrible monsters,
But also hitboxes, questionable game design, and many age-related health complications.
Hello. Let me introduce you to the story To Build a Fire. To Build a Fire is a short story written by Jack London in 1908. The story details the subarctic journey of a man across the Yukon. The man ignores the warnings of more wizened travelers that know the land far better than him and insists that he can make the journey alone. The story is a roller coaster with fleeting heights and abysmal lows. A timeless tale of man versus nature. Humanity continually underestimates her, and she always strikes back with a blow 1 billion times more debilitating. At the end of the story, Winter's bitter fingers draw yet another soul behind the curtain, and the man goes peacefully in a small pile of snow. The reason why I bring it up is because my journey through Monster Hunter 2 is almost an exact mirror of the man from To Build a Fire. Except I'm pretty sure I suffered at least 5 billion times more than the man, because at least he had a dog. Meet Old Timer, local village hero, serial arsonist, and notorious felon dealer. This foolish old man thought that because he'd beaten a legendary elder dragon capable of bringing entire armies to their knees, he could happily retire in relative luxury. Little does he know that over in the city of Dondorma, quests are being issued for the heads of the most loathsome creatures. Monsters so big they trample cities just out on a stroll. Monsters so fast and with hitboxes so comically enormous, you'll die before you even realize a monster was doing a move. And worst of all, the crabs. They're back. And they're hungry. And worse yet, they brought their 6'8" leader. Due to my own hubris, I decided it wouldn't suffice to just beat the game. I wanted to utterly dominate the game, to solo every single monster that the city had to offer, to return home to victorious fanfare without having help, to solo every monster in Monster Hunter DOS. So we got a challenge on our hands, and it wouldn't be a challenge if we didn't have any rules to adhere to. Rule 1. Complete every monster's quest once. And if I'm capable of doing it solo once, that proves that it is beatable and I can hunt that monster again in a group if there are enough people online. Rule 2. Subspecies in this game serve the express purpose of padding out the monster roster and are basically a recolor that changes nothing besides color. If I kill a subspecies, that includes the base monster and vice versa, with some exceptions. This video will serve as kind of a guide and walkthrough, and mostly a documentation of my descent into Monster Hunter madness. I hope you all enjoy. 50 degrees, and that was all. Dondorma is a central town in the world of Monster Hunter, its location making it a prime target for roaming elder dragons. In response, the Hunters Guild at Dondorma have put together the Dragon Watch, a team of researchers that document an elder dragon's every movement so that they know when trouble's heading their way. If an elder dragon does attack town, civilians barricade themselves from the raging threat outside, guild knights protect them, and an elite hunter squadron is sent out to repel the fell beast. Old Timer is not one of those people. Starting down in the dirt of Hunter Rank 1, the old man has absolutely no clout, no money, and worst of all, no maidens. He wasn't getting any from the Lady Dragon or the Peddler Granny. So he went out on a journey, ending up in this tavern, drunk and alone. The desire for clout fresh on his mind, he decided to pick up a quest from the young lady at the counter. a Yian Kut-Ku, a 1-star quest. It's gonna be simple, right? Right? Let me explain the problem with the solo challenge. Monsters in the city are balanced for a maximum of 4 players, meaning not only do monsters hit harder and are generally meaner than normal, but have anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 times the health that they would have had for regular Jumbo Village quests. That unfortunately applies to the small monsters as well. I'm not going to explain super in-depth on monsters that I've already covered in the village video because, well, they're in the village video. Kut-Ku prior to the glow up of millennia is a scrawny, wiry bird with the ugliest color scheme I may have ever seen, whose most notable feature is being turned into the cutest creature ever by the hand of From Software. The dumb pink bird gave me a particularly horrible omen that I should have taken and dropped this game immediately when I saw that this 1-star quest, the easiest difficulty in the game, took me with endgame, by village standards, weapons and armor half of the quest timer to kill. Yeah. Kut-Ku is simple. You hit him in the face or wing a whole bunch, and at the end he renounces his criminal ways in your arms and then gets shot by an off-screen worse villain. Except the bullet is a velociraptor. After the Yian Kut-Ku, I came to the realization that the old mountain dragon was besieging the city, and the guild needs any and all hunters to help. Or so I'm told, but apparently you need to be 18 years or older to participate. But what's this? The Grand Elder, His Immenseness, is calling?
Old timer. You are too small and pitiful to take on the old mountain dragon.
Yes, boss, I know.
Go to the arena. I prepared something specifically for you. And go naked.
Alright, I'll go to your stupid arena. What's that guy's problem anyway?
I know how much you like massive hogs.
At the time of playing, it was January 1st of 2025, at the very start of the new year. This is the only time of the year that the New Year's Feast quest is available for play. A quest where you strip down to your skivvies and absolutely demolish that hog, or the hog demolishes you. Monster Hunter loves doing these New Year's big pig quests. World had that ultimate Mosswine arena that do 9 billion damage, but nothing could compare to the sheer girth of this hog. This quest is simple. Get hit twice, you die. That would be fine if his charge attack wasn't half the width of the entire area. Most of the quest is spent running a marathon just to avoid his attack radius, then running a marathon to punish him, then once again running a marathon because he's just turned around and is ready to continue the cycle. After doing enough damage, the ultimate hog will get mad, and the mad hog no longer starts his charge with the leg drag. So there's absolutely zero time to attack him. The entire rest of the hunt is just the hunter getting ran through. After failing the quest twice, I eventually figured out a method. Dodge the charges and immediately go for the hind legs. Eventually I pulled through and we can now mark Boldrum off our list. Congratulations. We have now done 4 1-star quests and only won half of them. The next quest was the crab. Daimyo Hermitar really hasn't changed much at all between village and city, but I want to bring up this one suicide bombing feline because that's funny. The crab went down in 15 minutes because, as we'll soon find out, Hammer in this game is absolutely busted. Something I vaguely sensed in the village playthrough, but man, Hammer is just really good. The next is the Pink Stink himself, my favorite returning monster for Wilds, Kongalala. He's big, he's pink, he makes you stink, and Konga is his name. Oh, I now have pink eye, I just want to die. Look up to the sky, his stomach brings me pain. Ow. This quest has Kongas in it, and that's a problem, because they just don't fucking let up. I mentioned before that small monsters in city are absolutely miserable to fight, and this was the first quest that made it so apparent. Unless you're willing to divert your attention from the large monster and focus all your energy on just dropping them, they're going to keep buzzing around you being total nuisances the whole time, swarming you like smelly obese flies. Small monsters are, in my personal humble opinion, the worst aspect of solo hunting in DOS. Because while yes, they do have ridiculous amounts of health, it's not so bad when you could have one player engage the large monster while other players take on the little guys. Playing solo forces both the large monster and every single small monster in the area to completely focus on you. So while you may try focusing on one or the other, you'll usually end up doing neither because the sheer amount of health on the little guys and the fact that they respawn usually has the consequence of hunters drowning in a maelstrom of monkey farts. For that reason, I'm going to make a tier list of how insufferable small monsters can be. Konga's going at the top of the list. These Velociprey are also super obnoxious and do respawn, but most weapons will kill them in 2 to 3 hits, so they're manageable. The chill tier belongs to small monsters that aren't concussion dealers by default. That doesn't mean that they're safe, but for this game standards, they're the best, and for the jungle, that's our boys Outanoth and Kelby. After misclicking and making a heavy bowgun, I went to hunt a regular Bulldrome in the Snowy Mountains to test it out. Fun fact, Bulldrome actually sucks, and the real hard part of this quest in the Snowy Mountains is the Blangos. They hop around everywhere, they attack at the most inconvenient times, and worst of all, they just don't die. Iodrome in the village already had way too much health for being a wiry, frog-skinned loser. 1, 2, 3. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see what just occurred to me? And in the hub, he has twice what he already had. It's like they gave this creature the unnatural ability to survive being grabbed by the neck and clubbed around by a giant dog and survive completely without injury. Oh wait, that's Monster Hunter 4. Iodrome is accompanied by his ugly babies, Iaprey, and they may be just the worst thing ever. Which is amazing because this game is full of the worst things ever. They have a stupid amount of health, can poison, and are absolutely rampant. That's enough about the small monsters though. So let's shift our gaze to the progression system. Most Monster Hunter games have a system in place where you have to complete individual quests to move onward with your hunting career. Monster Hunter 4, for example, if you want to graduate from 2-star quests to 3-star quests, you'll have to hunt a Raytheon, a Kezu, a Zamtrios, and a Najarala. This isn't anywhere near all the monsters huntable in that tier, but it's made that way so that if you want to rush progression, you can while still hunting a diverse cast of monsters. In DOS, there isn't such a thing as rushing progression. Instead, your progression is entirely based on your hunter rank. To raise your hunter rank, you complete a quest to get a set number of points. The point requirement for your next level increasing as you rise through the ranks. This is an interesting system and concept because it almost makes hunting seem like an actual career. You clock in at the start of the day, grind hunts until you get a lot of points, and when the guild master thinks you're worthy, he gives you a promotion. In lieu of that promotion comes higher risk and higher responsibility quests. The drawback to the system though is that just like in real life, career jobs can get pretty monotonous. What really ends up happening with the hunter rank grind is you log in, choose that one quest that you can easily do that has a really high point payout, and do nothing but that quest over and over and over again. Sure, you could look around and try other quests, but why would you? They're either much too hard or don't give nearly enough points. That's where DOS kind of falls apart, but in a weird way, I kind of like it, which I will talk about later. Jigman is here to grind quests with me. You may have noticed attached to his jig back is a weapon that I haven't covered yet, the longsword. The longsword is by far and away the most popular weapon in the series, except for this game. Prior to Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, longsword was seriously not very fun. But come Iceborne time and Monster Hunter team decided that they wanted to play favorites. That's irrelevant for the sake of this video though. Longsword is notorious for its big, wide sweeping motions that are very prone to tripping your teammates, and because of that, making fun of longsword mains has become something of a rite of passage among the Monster Hunter community. Observe though, Jigman, a longsword player, but what's this? Instead of attacking the monster's head for optimal damage, he's attacking the tail to allow the blunt weapon user to get in his head hits. 3 cheers for Jigman. May he set an example for longsword players anywhere. Or not. I think they're taking tripping out of the game, so that doesn't even matter anymore. Lamau. After knocking Gendrome off the list, I found something very unusual over at the arena counter. A manly barbecue spit. Having no fucking clue at all what that means, I decided I could not live until I found out what that was, so off grinding dojo points I go. Dojo quests are weird. You can only faint once unless you pay off the cart feline by talking to Old Man Vegetable. He'll offer you this talisman in exchange for your dojo points, which in turn lets you faint and not fail the quest. In dojo quests, the goal is to gain as many dojo points as possible, so kill everything on the map except felines, and in return you get a tasty BBQ spit. Unfortunately, the manly barbecue spit doesn't really change much, but it does have men grunting in the background, which may or may not awaken something in you, so that's kind of an upgrade. Having done the bare minimum quests, Old Timer has worked his way into becoming a relatively promising figure in the eyes of the guild. So much so that he's been offered his first guild exam. This is how regular hunters that aren't main characters in Monster Hunter rise through the ranks. Once they prove proficient enough at hunting, they'll be given 4 exams to pass. Each exam having the same structure. Kill big guy, kill little guys, easy. The big guy on the second exam is Gypsyros, famous for being a little bastard. This is a returning monster in Monster Hunter Wilds. A tax we have to pay in order to get Nursilla to come back. Can someone please explain why his official Wilds render makes it look like he's waiting to take it? The little guys of the quest are Bolfango and Mosswine. One of those is an anger-fueled hell pig, and the other is just a chill guy. Also Genprey, who insist on being a part of everything. They can paralyze you, but they're not Aya Prey health, makes them pretty alright, actually. And after that is Cephadrome. If you know about old gen Cephadrome, you know full well how much of a bastion of good game design he is. It is incredibly engaging to run around the desert for 5 minutes straight as the fish just pretends you're not there. That might sound hyperbolic, but straight up, he will just not engage with you for 5 minutes and then just leave the area like nothing happened. This fight revolves completely around the expectation that you brought sonic bombs. And if you don't have those, then just know that you are not going to have very much fun. Also joining the small monster list is Cephalos. I hate Cephalos, but the quest was completed either way. To celebrate Old Timer's oncoming promotion, none other than Jigman joins, and together they accept a quest, the goal of which being to hunt 6 Yian Kut-Kus. With great ease, the two fell 6 Yian Kut-Kus. Jigman gives Old Timer the gift of garbage and wishes the old man well on his final exam. Crabs. It was easy as hell, and thus we break into our next rank. Nor did he think about man's gentleness. After the first round of exams, the next tier of monsters become available. Oh wow, none of them are fun. The first one I attempted was Blanganga with the iconic Kizusi. Hunting Horn is fast, it removes debuffs, and is a lot of fun. The Kizusi was the yesteryear answer to the Ice Monkey, so I tried it again to see if it would work again here. And I tried so hard, but the Kizusi just wouldn't cut it. Despite my best efforts, I just kept failing. Here's a pressing issue with Dose that will only get exponentially worse the further up the ladder we get. The weapons are not well balanced. Some weapons are fantastic and completely broken, and some weapon classes are simply unable to do enough damage to kill some monsters. And it is with immense sadness that I inform you that Hunting Horn is one of those weapons. Try as I may, I just wasn't dealing enough damage to Blango, and on top of that, his babies were the biggest pests, given my relatively low damage output. But I wanted the Kizusi, damn it, it was history, and yet Blango just didn't budge. It was hopeless, or so I thought. You see, there is an upgrade that I could get to improve the Kizusi, hopefully giving it that tiny little damage increase it needed in order to start doing much of anything. But in order to do that, I needed a pale bone from everybody's favorite albino chicken. Kezu is not fun and he's not hard. He just likes to stand still and roar or electric force field. Completely trivialized if you have a ranged weapon. If there's any one adjective to describe Kezu, it would be jank. Congratulations, buddy. You're going all the way in. The Pale Bone is a 3% chance to drop on capture, and on Skin Break, an 8%. With their power combined, the chance rises to 11%, meaning after 10 hunts, you should have at least gotten 1. But this is Monster Hunter we're talking about. Worse yet, this is old school Monster Hunter. So while I was dropping Kezus left, right, and center, and everybody else around me was pulling Pale Bones, I lay there, boneless. 1 became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became 10, 10 became 15, 15 became 20, 20 became 25, 25 became 30, 30 became 35, and then I got it. Yippee. That didn't take long at all, and was definitely worth it for a weapon that doesn't get completely outclassed in like 5 minutes. So I ran it back with the Kizusi and lost immediately. I hate this game. I did eventually finish off the Blanganga. My opinion on him remains relatively the same. I think he's fun and pretty cool. Until he starts running away, I guess. He doesn't outright cheat or anything, he's just a straight up brawl with a tough monster, and I respect that. Ignoring the parts of the fight where he just starts jumping between zones to camp you out. Everything else is cool. This is besides the point that I'm making, but recently, at the time of writing this, they announced Blanganga for Monster Hunter Wilds, and he looks fantastic and not like an oil slick. But the way they announced him was a direct recreation of the DOS intro animatic, with the greatsword main clashing while Hammer comes in from the side. I have to ask, am I the only person that noticed that? This is a question I'm asking to the 14 people that played Monster Hunter DOS. I'm genuinely curious. Anyways, back to Blango. With a new technique unlocked with Hunting Horn, starting everything with a stab, Blango falls, and I feel miserable knowing that I got walled by a 3-star monster. Time for some arena grinding. Hopefully, the neurotoxins dull this growing sense of dread. This is a Rathian, or Rathian if you're boring. I've said it once and I'll say it again. If you know how to fight her in one game, you know how to fight her in every game. She does have this weird thing with her backflip where if you're standing to her left, you're usually safe, but if you're standing to her right, she like turns toward you. She can pull some bullshit, but for DOS standards, this is a fun fight. Vizarios is a rock. He has always been a rock and will always be a rock. Through a mist of tears, Old-Timer gunned down the baby rock. It hurt bad, but this is a band-aid we must rip off sooner or later, Old-Timer. Oh, what's that? You're going to try and capture him? Well, good luck with that. He doesn't show any signs of weakness in this game. No limping, no nothing. If you do manage to capture him, that is complete luck and... oh, well that's nice. No killing babies here, at least not today. Now's about the time I tell you about my mentor figure throughout the DOS journey. Garuga. He had a little something that he wanted to share with me, and to see it I had to start a Rathian hunt in the jungle. So we went to the jungle, and I ran laps in between these two zones. Apparently there's supposed to be a hidden Easter egg if you do this, and after running for a while and assuming that I was being trolled, it happened. What? 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 The? What? That was the floating mountain dragon, Yamatsukami. Yamatsukami is a giant balloon octopus dragon, seldom seen and on the endless list of monsters that they refuse to bring back for no reason whatsoever. He's generally docile after feeding, which is what I believe was happening back behind that hill. And the stunned silence on my part was because we don't really get Easter eggs like this in Monster Hunter. Seeing a late game boss right before my own eyes at base camp in low rank, unbelievable. Even cooler is the fact that nobody knows what other kinds of Easter eggs could be in this game. After the shock of meeting the monster he would later face off with at the end of his journey, Old-Timer returned to see that Dondorma was in a state of panic. Besieging the gates was the Emperor of Flame, Teostra. Old-Timer wanted to aid in its repulsion, but he sucks, and the guild still doesn't trust him to be able to not instantly die. And so the goal was set. To quickly grind up to Hunter rank 21 so that he can participate in the fireworks. The next new monster is Shogun Cianatar. Shogun might just be the most fun, least cheap monster in the game. He doesn't intentionally roar stun you for a free follow-up, he doesn't have outrageous hitboxes, and he's a crab. From a pure game design perspective, I'd argue that he's the best DOS monster. From a human rights perspective, I'd argue he's the only good monster. At one point I even started calling him So Fun Cianatar. This enjoyability makes Shogun Cianatar a fantastic choice for Hunter rank grinding. He's also the perfect companion in bullying your friends. What's this? Monster companions? Let me explain. At Hunter rank 16, you take another round of guild exams. A Kongalala, a Rathian, a Kezu, and a Blanganga. Because I still hadn't yet fully recovered from the Pale Bone incident, I captured the Kezu, and instead of releasing it or dissecting it, Old-Timer had the brilliant idea to bring it home as a pet. naming it what felt most appropriate, and they began their forced friendship arc. Old-timer from the depth of his heart offered a truce to sever the chains of ire between him and Pale Boner. The foolish old man forgot that Kezu neither understands the genocide wrought on his kin, nor cares. But if there's one thing they know together, it's how to be a total bastard. So Old-timer went to his mentor Abiyarugu and challenged him to a duel. But Abiyarugu in his advanced knowledge saw right through Old-timer's conniving and decided to play a little trick of their own. Abiyarugu captured the fucking Titanic Bulldrome from the New Year's Day quest to pit against me in PvP, but Pale Boner and I wouldn't go down easy. PvP in DOS is interesting. You challenge an opponent hunter and fight their beloved pet to the death, all the while sabotaging your opponent, and you can be very, very annoying about it too. This is what happens when someone endures 1,000 hours of DOS. They learn from it. They choose monsters that do nothing but waste people's time by patiently camping out underground where they can't be reached. Choose paralysis or status affecting weapons to cripple the other players. And perhaps most annoyingly of all, they pack 50 flash bombs. In a weird way, it's nice to see that sweating on people fresh out of the womb is a thing across every genre of video game. Not even Monster Hunter is safe from it. After getting utterly decimated in combat, a now recurring character showed up and treated the group to a delicious meal, and we all proceeded to destroy ourselves and like 15 crabs. I can't really say how many crabs met their end on that day, just know that Old-timer was about to rank up, and those crabs looked like just the right amount of HRP. Ah yes, finally, I am back from the crab. Time to enjoy some delicious seafood. It's a little raw, isn't it? What? No, not again. What's happening to me? No. Can I get some sauce with it? So Plesioth is, He's Plesioth. There's nothing new I can add, just a word of warning. For the love of God, use a gun or a bow. Do everything you can to not get physical with the fish. He will readily weaponize time and space, and the only way you're safe is if you simply don't play his game. And if you do, never shoot his wings. I always thought his wings were weak as hell to bullets and arrows, but as it turns out, they're not. His weakest point is his neck. What's that? You don't know at what point his head ends and his neck begins? Me too. I actually got super extremely lucky and this ended up being a large crown Plesioth, which means I could go back to the village and get a giant fucking anchor as a hammer, but not before getting ruined by the hardest mashing minigame in what has to be all of gaming. What the hell is this? I even disgraced my integrity as a Monster Hunter player and an 11-time arm wrestling world champ and activated slow-mo to double my input speed, and even that was not easy. I don't know why they made it this way, but whenever it gets to Shipwright's push animation, that bar will just always just go straight to the end. So you have to always beat him before he starts fighting back, or else you just lose. So that's cool. Thanks for the hammer. Whoa, wait a second. Is that the Lobster of Brand Awareness? Hey guys, it's me, Lobster of Brand Awareness, here to soak up the next 30 seconds of your time like a hungry little sponge. I recently developed a caffeine dependence, and my chosen route for dealing with it is with GamerSups. Wow, you're teaming up with GamerSups? That's fantastic. Shut the fuck up. Oh, I'm sorry. Need to satisfy your unabated caffeine addiction. They got you. Want a shaker cup that your mom will walk in on and beat you for having? Oh yeah, baby. I still feel the bruises. Want to taste titty milk for the first time in at least 12 months or 12 minutes? GamerSups has you and then some. And if you think you can handle all the women that using this cup in public will attract, go to the link shown on screen or in the description and use code PAKEGGPAKE for 10% off, which will in turn enable this moron's bullshit. All right, that's enough out of you. For some reason, the Anchor of Destiny has those stats, so the remaining crabs fell pretty quickly. And before we knew it,
You would be in camp by 6 o'clock. It would be a little after
dark. At Hunter rank 22, hunters are bestowed the title of mercenary. Those entrusted with taking on and defending Dondorma from elder dragons. ancient threats likened to living natural disasters, just like the one that is currently at the gates of Dondorma. Ignore the fact that I'm literally surrounded by people that are hundreds of hunter ranks higher that have already completed this quest, because that would ruin all immersion in this little narrative I'm spinning. After being invited to dinner by the realest person I know, Old Timer bids X-Dan-H farewell, and the city is evacuated. This might be the coolest quest setting. It's something about the so familiar Dondorma Square, completely vacant with a tent hastily set up. Aya Prey are roaming the streets, ransacking the town. That's so eerie and foreign. The perfect setting for an invading dragon. If you watched my first Dose video, you might remember Lunastra, the ruthless Empress of Flame atop the tower. Here's her husband, who according to the game is meaner because, I don't know, he's slightly bigger on average. Yeah, these two are the exact same monster. Sadly, there is no supernova because I guess they haven't invented that yet. This quest sucks, and if you have eyes and are looking at the screen right now, you'll understand why. Someone on the Monster Hunter team decided that not only should we put the annoying flying snakes with way too much health in this quest, but they also put the angry little poison dart frog raptors in the quest. Armed with the anchor of multitudes and after downing 800 milligrams of Adderall, Old Timer met the dragon at the gates of Dondorma, and they fell to blows. To counteract the unfair advantage on the monster's side by adding in an unnecessary amount of small monsters, the battle quarters is stocked with an incredible amount of siege equipment. This equipment is largely unusable if you're playing solo, given that the dragon and small monsters have nobody to target but you, so shucks. And the siege equipment just really doesn't do that much when you could instead be throwing down with the dragon. There is, however, an exception. The Dragonator. The Dragonator is by far and away the most iconic Monster Hunter siege weapon. A colossal spear designed to launch out and gore the beast in one fell swoop, skewering them as humanity's mechanical answer to nature's indomitable dragons. They come in many designs, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes four. Sometimes they spin, sometimes they just explode. Whatever the case, when a creature beyond evolution comes knocking at the door, the best way to respond is with a quick, decisive, lethal attack. Whoops, I missed. Creating that much force in the blink of an eye is not sustainable, and as such, after one use, the Dragonator must be left alone to cool down. In other words, if you miss once, you have approximately 10 minutes to fight the monster, and think about how this might be done already if you didn't miss like a dumb idiot. Luckily, the next one did hit, and as cool as it was downing the Teostra mid-flight, it was much nicer to see that one Remobra fall pathetically to the ground. Fuck that guy. After 25 minutes of suffering from repeated small monster attacks and occasional skirmishes with the actual target, the second Dragonator hit and Teostra realizes that this fight was lame as hell, and he fled to the volcano, the Emperor inviting the danger into his own home. You might be astonished by how little I acknowledged Teostra in that fight, but you have to understand, this did not feel like a Teostra hunt. This felt like a chemical weapons testing zone. They were Johnson & Johnson, and I was a New York sewer rat that they picked up to be used as the experimental group. But this time, Teostra's on the back foot. He fled back to his home in the volcano, and it is in that same volcano that he will find his burial ground. Monster Hunter Dose has really weird rules when it comes to placing small monsters in Elder quests. In case you didn't know, whenever an Elder Dragon is present, most small monsters will be completely gone, either in hiding or all dead. At least that's the case in more modern games. But in Dose, the map will be completely vacant, and then there will be just that one area full of angry herbivores that just didn't get the memo. Herbivores that, instead of running from or fighting back against the Elder, will choose to attack the innocuous player that's just minding his own business.
I know there's an awful living natural disaster capable of utterly destroying the natural order of things right over there, but man, fuck this guy. Teostra is pretty sick though. His music is good, his fight is unequivocally more fun than Kushala Deora's and most other elders in this game. He's just a well-rounded, fun monster that only got better as the generations passed. To hurt him, you have to hit his face, and in this game, that will usually get you punished. For most monsters, if you hit their legs enough, they'll fall over, but for Elder Dragons, that'll just stagger them. What topples Elders is hitting their faces.
and hammer is so good for this. There's even a semi-consistent loop I discovered that works on most dragons that we'll touch on later. The only real pain point I have with this game's Teostra is that you don't know if he's doing the near explosions or the far explosions. You are generally safe standing in this sort of mid-range area, away from his face, but not too far away, that I found to be the safest. I also find myself kind of liking this mechanic where you don't know where the explosions are going to happen, because knowing exactly where kind of makes things super trivial to avoid. I wish I had more to say about Teostra, but I already said words about Lunastra, and don't worry, we have a lot more of these two in our very near futures. After trying out the Blenganga coined strat of not interacting with me for a very long time, at the 45-minute mark, the arc of Teostra at the gates of Dondorma is finally put to an end. Old Timer has officially slain his first city elder dragon. Yes, it required an exceedingly rare weapon that he got based on the almost magical basis of happening upon a gold crown large Plesioth, but who cares? We take those. After the battle at the volcano, Old Timer was able to craft the incredibly powerful bow of Hope and Dreams. It's alright. In Generations, they gave it Blast Blight and it can kill a Kut-Ku in like 8 seconds. And in Dose, it's alright. Fitted with the bow of piss and shit, Old Timer heads to the ancient tower. For a new elder beckons. One of vaguely equine shape, whose fight made history as one of the most annoying, even now in its most recent introduction. Kirin. In mythology, the Kirin is a deer with the features of a Chinese dragon. Things like antlers, scales, and having the tail of a lion or ox. In Monster Hunter, it's just a scaled unicorn with a lightning rod on its forehead. I find it funny that they once brought a giraffe to the east and everybody thought it was a Kirin. And I could be wrong, but I think that story is the reason why the Japanese and Korean word for giraffe is Kirin. I should start calling Kirin giraffe from now on. Now, if only they gave game giraffe a 60-foot neck. Mythology Kirin is a benevolent creature, symbolizing good fortune. This Kirin symbolizes bruise marks on my epiglottis. He's super weak to fire, so I thought bringing this brand new bow with hella fire damage would be a good idea, but then I died. And then I died 2 more times. Time to hoe out to hammer once again. I really would love to say that switching to hammer is the cheat code and I quickly won right after selecting it, but it isn't. Kirin is an extremely dangerous horse capable of running so fast it can literally walk on water. Pretty much every cutscene he's in has him disappearing due to his lightning speed, though that speed is brought about only because of his fragility. In lore, a Kirin hunt really comes down to 2 things. A hunter gets a clean hit and Kirin dies, or Kirin sees the hunter getting close and the hunter dies. That makes for unexciting gameplay though, so instead you're subjected to an incredibly tedious fight. Even if it's not the biblically accurate horse, he's still extremely mobile, with every square inch of his body being made of really hard layered fur and scales. If you want to hit to actually do damage, you have to hit his face, something much easier said than done. So not only is this horse incredibly fast and unbelievably resilient, but he also commands lightning, because that horn is just a lightning rod. Lightning that hits hard and has a chance to paralyze you, giving the horse plenty of time to tap dance on your corpse before finishing you off. Besides jumping around a lot and just being hard to hit, he also has this really funny move where he just runs. Like, he doesn't lower his horn to the ground to skewer you, he just angrily runs in a straight line. It's probably not funny, but I find that funny. Besides fire, this horse does have a weakness, that being sleep. If you have sleep ammo or a sleep weapon, he is very susceptible to that, so sleep bombing is a viable strat. Otherwise, take the strongest hammer you own and get ready to go the distance. This anchor hammer is the strongest hammer I own, and it took me all the way up to the 45-minute mark to beat Kirin. Wow. That definitely doesn't give me the most dreadful feeling going forward, knowing that I'm barely even a fifth of the way through this video and I'm still struggling this hard. This is definitely possible. In this game, a Kirin quest rewards you with ancient potions, and because they made it so you can't send items to your item box, you can only take 1. They don't sell for much either, so the only real purpose they serve is screwing you out of rare Kirin materials. Fuck you. After the Kirin situation, Old Timer was sent a message via carrier pigeon. informing him of the lackluster state that the village was left in. Apparently, I hadn't even gotten close to growing Jumbo Village to its fullest potential, and because I get nauseous at the thought of missing absolute completion, I decided to lump that in as another goal for this video, bringing us to the next part.
Once in a while, the thought repeated itself that it was very that he had never experienced such a cold.
First things first, when returning to the village, Master Shipwright was left with less than a stellar ship, and I wanted to change that. So to make new sails, I combined Blango whiskers with Blango pelts, which for some reason turned into a ship sail. Once you deliver items to a person that asks for stuff, you gotta do a quest to pass the time so they can actually apply it. So while waiting for him to work on his boat, I wanted to take care of Black Diablos with my new bow of cock and balls. So I went and got jump scared.
A gulp. She's right behind me, isn't she?
This fight wasn't terrible compared to the usual village Diablos. It is kinda the same exact monster, minus the color and the sadomasochism. And this fight was over in little more than 40 minutes. Old Timer made his return to a much more prosperous village. The now completed Argosy means many things. New visitors to Jumbo for one, as we can see with the new gadget craftsman down by the river. The ship being completed also opens the door to trade, leading to Jumbo's wealth absolutely exploding. Village housing is nicer, shopkeeps will routinely get exceptionally good items in stock like mega tools, shock traps, and you can do exactly what you'd hope a boat in a video game could do. Get on it. The ship will ferry you back a generation to Kokoto, the main village from Monster Hunter 1. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I smoothly transition to Kokoto. Now, normally I would record the cutscene from the world guide here with all the other stuff, but for some reason, that is the one cutscene that they just decided to exclude. So I'm gonna have to use the streamed version with a chat overlay on it. So that's weird. That's cool. When I got here, I was so surprised to find that instead of the Kokoto village theme, a remixed Proof of a Hero was the background music. The next thing I noticed was that one of the random passerbys was selling a Rathalos book, confirming that yes, Rathalos is in fact in the video game. I was hoping we'd finally found a title that accidentally forgot the series mascot, but I guess that'll have to wait. I cannot believe we are now 6 generations in and they keep forgetting to take him out. It's not like we all don't know who the true series mascot is. Also in this village is Mutton, which is a fucking awesome pig in a sheep costume. Kokoto has mostly all the same facilities as Jumbo, but also this abandoned sword shrine that Old Timer is clearly unworthy of. Eventually he stumbled upon the village chief, a former hunter just like Old Timer, one who retired after his wife was struck down by a fearsome dragon. He rambles about what it means to be a hunter and then rents Old Timer someone else's home without asking them permission. No, this is not a bit, that is exactly what he does. They're not home right now though, so let's not worry about it. Let's take a look at where it all began. Monster Hunter 1's Forest and Hills. This scene with the whimsical music and crazing Aptonoth always makes me wonder what the devs thought the game would turn out to be. Maybe it would just stay as a niche Capcom game exclusive to Japan, or maybe it would evolve into its own series, fighting a hard fight for multiple decades until it explodes into Capcom's #1 best-selling title, placing 6th in the list of fastest-selling games of all time in just its first 3 days. It brings me back to the days when none of my friends had any idea what Monster Hunter was. Seeing the series finally making it out of the water in 2018 and becoming the titan it is today, with commercials showing up in like regular TV, it never fails to inspire me. And to think it all began at this one riverside, where the first Aptonoth fell, where the first hunters drew their swords. Forest and Hills looks pretty good in this game. though there is some leftover jank from ripping it directly from Monster Hunter 1. Some level geometry is weird and gives us situations like the escalating hunter, and this weird moment when these two mosswines kept walking into me. There is much speculation on my hair status, and I assure you, I am not bald. These aren't two creatures walking into my video game personage because I'm a kindred spirit. Old Timer just had a mushroom stuck to his pant leg, that's all. Whimsical nostalgia and male pattern baldness aside, I want to take this moment to talk about something. You might notice the music that I'm choosing to put in the background right now. This haunting, enchanting, weirdly ominous yet soothing tune, generating from an unusual place. Monster Hunter doesn't really do area themes. If you run around the volcano, for example, the only sounds you're gonna hear are your own footsteps and the cries of 70 Aya prey coming to assault you. But besides that, no ambient music. Well, in Area 7 of the Forest and Hills, an area with no life besides Old Man Vegetable, this song plays. And it was in sitting here and listening to this song, the magic of DOS and old school Monster Hunter as a whole really started setting in. This isn't a place for people. It's an unfair world that's filled with pain and frustration. It's hard and completely unfair by design. What they've done is emulate a really cruel and terrible world, but the world in no way proclaims that fact. There doesn't have to be bodies swinging from trees, or human remains, or sad townspeople and sad item descriptions for Monster Hunter to really be a tough setting. In fact, from what we've all seen so far, this world advertises itself to be the exact opposite. I see a lot of people misunderstanding Monster Hunter. Things like the movie perfectly summarize what Monster Hunter isn't. These aren't bloodthirsty monsters with a one-track mind to kill all humans. These are animals. Their one goal is to live their life and be a part of nature. Cruel, but beautiful, just like our world. And games like DOS really extend that feeling to the players as well. You're not some superstar hunter in a game that's designed for you to blitz through it all, killing absolutely everything in sight, paying zero attention to the environment around you because why would you need to? You can just have your animal automatically take you to your target. I wouldn't call these criticisms per se of the most recent 3 titles. Like, I understand that increase in map scale gives birth to the need of these new means of traversal, so you're not running for 5 hours to reach where the monster just ran off to, but it's these same traversal features that make the map so much less memorizable. Again, that's not even that much of a criticism. I'm sure most people prefer the non-stop action, tee 'em up and knock 'em out and then on to the next one system that the newer games have going on. What I'm doing right now is simply taking a moment to appreciate the bygone era. A time before hunters got upgrades to their kits, making them more and more capable of destroying monsters as time went on. A time when humans and Wyverians really sucked at the bottom of the food chain. That's all. Unscripted rant over, here's Rathalos. And the first time this game even mentions the series mascot's name, despite us being well over 100 hours into this garbage. Rathalos in this game isn't Rathalos. He's Proto-Tigrex. All this dude does is fucking run and run and run and run and run. This thing has so many moves that are cool and strong, but none of them are nearly as deadly or as spammed as him quickly propelling himself forward. It is an atrocity. This charge attack really got me thinking about the game's difficulty, and it really made me notice how most of DOS's gameplay revolves around you trying to avoid getting put into an unwinnable situation. 95% of monsters in this game have a roar that will stun you, and all of them, if they choose the correct move, can hit you out of it. And most monsters will readily put you in situations where your only choice is to watch in horror as they land repeated blows until your health hits 0. I call these situations Finwis, which stands for fuck you, don't win scenario, where a monster just decides that you'd look better on a cart. As previously stated, a lot of learning to play Dose is trying to preemptively mitigate being absolutely fin-whisked to hell. Kezu, for example, loves to roar, and this jump attack makes it so that you can't stand far away from him and be safe after he roars. If you're too close when he roars, then he's just gonna bite or force field. To avoid the fin-whisks, I found the best place to stand is in this mid-range, where if he jumps, he should sail right over your crouching figure that still hasn't realized that, hey buddy, the roar's over, you can take your hands off your ears now. This is particularly present with Rathalos, because if you get caught by that roar, you can bet your sweet bippy he's going to charge or fireball you straight back to Monster Hunter Frontier. In this fight, what you can do to mitigate the fin-whisks is either bring a shielded weapon and react to the roar, or roll directly into his left foot moments before the roar. In these games, every tiny, seemingly meaningless movement a monster does has a hitbox. And if you'll notice that when Rathalos roars, he'll do a quick step with his left foot. If you roll into that step, you'll have enough iframes to not be affected by the roar. Keep in mind this is Dose, the controls are not that forgiving, and most of the time you won't be able to reach that left foot, so you're probably going to be tanking a Rathalos charge here or there. The King of the Skies is a hugely territorial flying wyvern, and is incredibly common in the world of Monster Hunter. All but the sharpest weapons are turned away from its thick, plated scales. He has dangerous fiery breath and venomous talons. The latter not being very dangerous because that move is so fickle. Either the claw attack does nothing and he doesn't go anywhere, or he becomes a heat-seeking missile with the accuracy and precision of a US SEAL Team 6 sniper. And you're a sick Middle Eastern kid with no legs. The dichotomy of this move, either being the most piddly little whimper or a venomous nightmare, would be funny if it weren't so awful on the rare chance that it does hit. Let's not forget about Rathalos' most iconic move, the Rathalos World Tour. Using this move, Rathalos will fly high into the air and just kinda cruise around for a second, before giving the most telegraphed dive bomb in Monster Hunter history. After which he'll usually be going so fast that he'll accidentally clip over an invisible wall and land on the Forest and Hills skybox. Actually, that doesn't even apply to Forest and Hills. Just everywhere Rathalos is, he is going to be kissing that skybox. See ya. Oh, what the?
It sure is, isn't it?
For some reason, the game's difficulty rating puts Rathalos at 2 stars, which feels awful when it took me over 45 minutes to beat him. That was a 2-star monster hunted by a guy that has over 100 hours in this game. Yeah. Blue Rathalos is the exact same thing as Red Rathalos. In future titles, they would differentiate the two by making Blue Rathalos fly more. And in this game, I'd almost prefer if he flew more. That'll be less opportunities for him to charge. There is this one neat interaction where I was on a cliff face going down, and Rathalos seems to kind of be programmed to pepper you with fireballs if you're anywhere on the cliff. That's not something we really see anywhere else in the game, so that's kind of cool. Rathalos is one of those Monster Hunter 1 monsters that definitely could have used more work before being ported over. He's annoying, he's Dose, he's getting close. After felling the Rathalos, the Sword of Kokoto finally considers Oldtimer worthy, and he pulls it out of the stone with great ease, before seeing its stats and promptly putting it back in.
I wonder how many other bits I can steal from Cross Poison.
Just as he was getting comfy in the new village of Kokoto, a carrier pigeon flew in from off-screen with an ominous message. Apparently, a dragon unlike any other we've seen is approaching the gates of Dondorma, and they need the old man's help immediately. Oldtimer rushed back to the city, oozing with confidence. He's hunted dragons before, so this'll just be another Tuesday for him. But as he approached, he realized that, strangely, the ground was shaking. Suddenly, a mountainous shadow appeared from the fog. Hauling his slow ass over to Dondorma was none other than the old mountain dragon, Lao-Shan Lung. Well dang, we're already here then? Lao-Shan Lung is the first proper siege fight with one of my favorite locations that you fight him in. This starting camp is a proper barracks. I can imagine the hunters frantically rushing in and out, grabbing siege equipment. Of course, I can only imagine that because this place is completely deserted. The fight itself might be the most boring piece of shit in the series, but he is the series' first big guy. That started a trend of trying to one-up the previous generation's big guy in sheer size before they eventually realized that they can't make anything bigger without making my PC explode. Want to know how Lao-Shan Lung attacks? He walks. Lao-Shan Lung attacks by walking. He does not target you a single time during any of this. He's just walking. This is one of those quests where the spectacle greatly supersedes the gameplay. It's so much cooler to look and think, wow, look at that enormous dragon that you're going up against and beating up. Look at you defying nature. It's much less cool to say, all right, do this tedious process of mashing attack on big guy's fat tummy for 35 minutes straight and you might win. Don't worry though, because the developers predicted these frivolous complaints and have solutions. Lao-Shan Lung doesn't interact with the player in any way throughout the entire hunt? I know. Let's have these homing boulders fall on top of the player. What do you mean we'll have to program the rock to break on Lao's back? Can't we just make it phase through him to hit the player? That sounds so much more realistic. Lao's journal entry states that most people that encounter Lao are never heard from again. Given his relative indifference toward Old-Timer running around at his toes, I like to think that it's those hunter-seeking boulders. Maybe they gained sentience and showed up at their doorstep to finish what Lao started. Oh boy, I sure hope random, mystical, malevolent boulders don't become a recurring feature in this game. There's also these high points on the map that Lao will attack, and if you time it right, you can jump off them and land on his back. And if you have anti-dragon bombs, you can place them up there and do colossal damage to him. If you don't have anti-dragon bombs, you can carve 3 things off his back. Something I highly recommend you do. You know, to the 4 psychopaths that picked up dose after watching this video. Lao-Shan Lung does do a lot of attacking, but it's all meant for architecture. When he reaches the fort defending the city, he'll begin smashing his way through. The fort's integrity you can check on the quest menu. If it drops to 0, you're done. Lao gained access to Dondorma, and all those deaths are on you. Aw, dang it. The only legitimate way to die to Lao is by getting caught on his tail when he's leaving. Despite getting the quadruple Dragonator Deluxe, Lao-Shan Lung destroyed the fort and besieged Dondorma. Luckily, there's a separate, nearly identical Dondorma for Old-Timer to migrate to. One that also had an invading Lao-Shan Lung, so the runback is on. So tell me, is it fun watching a 1:10 unskippable cutscene straight to waiting 5 whole minutes for Lao to reach the first area? Doesn't that sound so fun to do repeatedly, then being subjected to 30 minutes of the most mindless gameplay ever? As far as dose gameplay goes, this is riveting. Also, the best hammer in the game is made from Lao-Shan Lung parts, so better get used to spending your days hitting that fat little Lao tum. So why is this monster seemingly so apathetic to humans, so adamant on ripping through Dondorma? Could it be for food? The grand feasts, livestock, and concentration of supple human flesh that it craves? Could it be a roaming dragon that got bored and wants to wreak havoc? Or could it perhaps be something great and terrible sent the beast running, escaping by any means necessary? The truth to this question we will come to find out later. As for now, Old-Timer has just one goal: attack Lao-Shan until it relents. Become the thing Lao-Shan Lung flees from. And after a long, grueling battle against the old mountain dragon that came scarily close to time, he does just that. Yay, look at him go. He's so proud of himself. So Lao-Shan Lung is in town. A quest that does not come by often. A quest with such good rewards, high hunter rank points and material drops. It'd be stupid not to grind him. And that was about to become so much easier, because Old-Timer could now make the Toenail of Doom. The Toenail of Doom was my favorite hammer from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and to my immense fortune, it's incredibly strong in dose. The base Toenail is just as strong as my fully upgraded anchor, but get this, with only a couple more Lao-Shan kills, it gets even more busted. A cacophony of Lao-Shan Lung cries were heard in the night as toenails entered lungs. The only sign of them being there was a bloodied, partially senile old man. Yes, if I kill another one, I can get some claws. Another one falls. Another one falls. Oh yes, this is brilliant. Now I can turn my power charm into a power talon and increase my damage even further. Let's kill another one to upgrade that weapon. Another one falls. Oh, how ravishing. You look so lovely when you're dead. So breathtaking. Another one falls. Oh, yes. The toenail of doom was always destined to reach its strongest state. It is written in my destiny to command this game. Oh, this is going to be fun. After the Lao-Shan Lung grind that drove the species to extinction, Old-Timer headed back to the village and immediately threw down with Rathalos, failing it in a little less than 25 minutes. That might not sound incredible, but we're no longer edging the timer here, so that is a colossal improvement. With the power talon in my clutches, even other weapons benefited from a considerable power boost. I cried out for a hand, and I got a talon, attached to a really big foot, and it was exactly what I needed. I needed more power though, and I was gonna get it through the Rathalos armor. You see, Shogun's Sianitar armor is good, with its attack up S and health boost, but I wanted the 2 skills Rathalos armor offered more. Attack up M, or a larger increase in damage output, and Psychic, an armor skill that'll let me see exactly where a large monster is on a map. Attack up M in Dose doesn't really do an incredible amount, but it's so much more than Shogun's S. Plus it'll be all worth it when I can finally see where that monster is without a paintball. Old-Timer killed Rathalos in the dozens. They were annoying as hell, but they still died. Mostly. There was this tower Azur Rathalos that led him up to the top just to fly down, leading to a stinging timeout, wasting that other Rathalos that was already painstakingly hunted through what felt like an eternity of fireballs, screams, charges, and jumping off the map. God, I wish that was me right now, but it's whatever. Kokoto has a Malinx in disguise called the Nyadi Neko that pilfers the shops and books it out of the village, which is great. They'll never get that stuff back. You know what else is never coming back? The chief's hunting career. Monoblos is the one-horned equivalent to Diablos, one that is a million times more tolerable, because where Diablos prefers the lethal upward thrust from the ground attacks, Monoblos, while he still can dig, is much more prone to just throwing down with you on the land. This was actually the original Monster Hunter's final village boss, which is an interesting topic of another video. Monoblos' design is significantly more bird-like, with an actual beak and hawk-like eyes, whereas Diablos' design is more of an affront to God. Monoblos then is very much like Diablos and fills the same ecological niche. Dangerous territorial herbivore that rules over the desert. Has as much health as some elder dragons, but not quite as much as Diablos, because again, affront to God. Has a subspecies that's white that says mayonnaise is spicy and also has a literal heart as an item drop. I'm not really sure how you make an organ that's purposefully soft and fleshy into usable weaponry or armor, but I'm not the boss here. With that, Old-Timer finishes his work with Kokoto and sailed back to Gumbo. Old-Timer was on a rampage. Black Diablos, Kirin, I want those ancient potions, you little bastard. Diablos, boom. Forge upgraded to the max level. The guy running around downstairs doesn't do that anymore, which is upsetting. Forge Granny's master has returned, signifying the Forge's absolute completion. Forge Granny's a human? What's this? Lao-Shan Lung's approaching Jumbo? No problem. First I'll watch this really cool cutscene that I can't skip, then go to the first area. Shut up, hunting instructor! I've played this game before. Spend 30 minutes in heart-pumping gameplay. Go away, I pray. How did you even get up here? Meet Lao at the fort and kill him. Lao must die. I'm now worthy of pulling the forgotten blade from betwixt Lao's teeth in the tunnel. Uh-oh. Jumbo's saying a male Lunastra was recently discovered. Get with the times, Gumbo! I already killed him. They'll be sure to tell us more, though. Lunastra hunt. Bam. Old-Timer attacks women. Yeah. At this point, Old-Timer no longer believes in death. He's downing fiendish dragons and monsters left and right, and because of him, the village flourishes like never before. We have a Rathian in a net now. Isn't that just wonderful? Children are being born, the forge is at its best, drums are being played, feasts happen on the nightly, Shipwright is taking souls in arm wrestling, and everybody's passing out under the night sky. Hey look, it's Mr. Jumbo Chief, back from his game of Civilization Dose. Oldtimer is the 11th wonder of the world, and he has become a celebrated name to the people of Jumbo. They put him in a glass case for people all around to gawk at. Those poor, sad tourists fell for the trick. They don't know there's only one way to feed him. I must have been riding an incredible high during this session, because remember how I talked about how near impossible Master Shipwright was to beat in arm wrestling? I had Oldtimer march right up, smoke his ass, and immediately left to kill Village Tiastra, which died in 10 minutes. After all of that, it was time to face our next new monster. Dos introduced an Elder Dragon trio, each of which having abilities that are meant to counter the other. Kushala has harsh winds that blow away Tiastra's powder and is weak to poison. Tiastra has impeccable heat control and fire breath, with fires that can lift fog. So what is the last dragon to finish the trio? He's in this image. Can't see him? Good, you're not supposed to. But if I tab forward just a little bit, then we can maybe... There it is. Chameleios is a giant leaf-tailed gecko with the abilities of a chameleon. Reports of this monster are very few and far between, based on its amazing ability to disappear. Bending the light around it with such incredible efficiency, it appears completely invisible. But when it comes to combat, there are slight imperfections to this system. Chameleons in nature are tiny and slow, so if a predatory creature decides they're food, they can't really do much besides hide. I guess their next option is defend, but that's not that scary, bro. Sorry. So they evolved the incredible ability of being great hide-and-seek champions. Chameleios here also has that ability, and the ability to create fog, even further obscuring itself. So is it like a real chameleon in that way? You know, the only reason chameleons have the ability to camouflage so well is because they're so fragile and weak and pathetic. Is Chameleios the same way? No. It has more health than the whole Elder Trio, by a good amount too. So why is it necessary? To make this monster that's already impossible to see initially, so you'll spend forever searching for it, that has the highest health of any village monster that isn't a siege. To also make it so its squishy lizard skin is harder than steel, thereby making its already colossal health pool even harder to whittle down. What leaps in development logic led to this point? He fits onto the trio by being weak to fire, and since fire moves air upward, it's supposed to be able to lift the dragon fog away. But Chameleios is also one of the most potent monsters at delivering poison. Chameleios will routinely imbue his fog with poison, leaving the zone a poisonous miasma that very few can recover from. Luckily, the only poisonous fog Dos Chameleios uses is this giant screen clearer, which is pretty much impossible to avoid based on where you are when the animation starts, so bring your antidotes and hope he doesn't steal them. As much as I would love to say that the random little annoyances that this monster has end there, but no, they don't. It may seem like Chameleios has enough unnecessary little annoyances that he can slow you down with, but the devs strongly disagreed. Lead director Kaname Fujioka is a notorious gangster, and has gone on to state in interviews around the time that the reason why Chameleios steals your items is because it, quote, reminded him of the time he stole a pregnant woman's purse and kicked her into traffic, and he wanted a way to simulate what she must have felt in her final moments. That being said, rest in peace, Mom. I miss you. Is Monster Hunter Dos an allegory for pregnancy? That would explain the terrible control scheme in the world full of monsters that hate you. Kaname Fujioka would then go on to become an Omni-Chad dual Lanceman. May we all aspire to his level of basedness. Unrelated, but in the same exact interview that I'm pulling this clip from, they used a fart vine boom with reverb sound effect when mentioning Kongalala. This is the official Monster Hunter YouTube account, by the way. So I prattled on about how Chameleios has a lot of bullshit attacks, right? How this one monster somehow has all of the most annoying mechanics possible. Yeah, well, we need to squeeze in one more because that's not all. Chameleios has the ability to spit out a yellow-green goo or vapor that completely paralyzes your vocal cords, dropping your stamina bar to 0 and keeping it there. Yes, someone thought that its already obnoxious kit wasn't annoying enough and went to the lab with the singular goal of inventing a whole new game mechanic with the sole purpose of making this one fight even more annoying. Jesus Christ, Monster Hunter 2 devs, who hurt you? We pulled through on the first quest and got an awesome end screen that's just a nick. Let's talk about the end game real quick, features of which we can interact with now at this point in the journey. In Monster Hunter Dose, there's this thing called armor pigment. Armor pigment is the dose method of getting people on the spectrum to sink unholy hours into the game, with some colors being basically free and the other being Valorous Violet. You unlock armor pigments when you first craft a piece of armor capable of using them. For me, it was this Shogun mail with the red pigment. Armor in Dose might be one of the coolest systems in the series. In later games, you have to dump a truckload of armor spheres onto a piece, and that'll raise its defense by 7, which works fine. But in Dose, you need to do a ton of extra work for those upgrades. And when you get them, you're so much better off. Armor here has upgrade trees, with different possible skills depending on which road you go down. Take my Shogun Cianatar chest piece for example. I can go the top route and keep my small attack boost and health up. I can go the U route for a medium attack boost, replacing health with speed sharpening. Or I can go the S route with a large attack boost and throwing power. Not really sure how Cianatar gives me throwing power, but who cares? As grindy as it is, I think this is a really cool system that makes it so you really have to work for the armor skills you desire. Good job, Monster Hunter Dose. You have one system in place that doesn't keep me up at night. You know, until it does, because everything in Monster Hunter Dose has to go wrong at some point. Old Timer decked himself out in Rathalos armor. It was a long time coming, but he finally... Oh, that doesn't have full Psychic. Well, Psychic is one of those skills that requires 10 points to unlock its effect. And the current set has 9. That's okay though. We could just plug a Psychic decoration into our armor set, and that tips us over to a beautiful 10 points, unlocking the ability Detect. With this skill, we can finally see where the monster is without the need for paintballs. Now it's time to sweat against Chameleios. I just have to look at the map and wait, why is he not showing up on the map? I have Detect, right? Why is he... Okay, that's not right. Maybe it just can't pick up Chameleios because of the camouflage. Wait, what? Still not working? Why don't you... Hey guys, isn't it a nice feature that we now get to view what armor skills can do in-game now? Pretty useful. And also a luxury that Dose doesn't afford you. So let me tell you what Detect does. Detect is a complete scam and not worth the time sunk in to get it. I went through all that work, all that hard-fought effort, killing countless Rathaloses, just for 2 skills that do basically nothing. You want to know what Detect does? This is what it does. When you throw a paintball at a monster, instead of becoming a flat circle, it becomes a vague approximation of what the paintball monster looks like. Wow. Incredible. I'm so happy I got that. All that time and effort for a fucking cosmetic. So in the end, I don't get to know where the monster is. I still have to run laps around the jungle to paintball them. But hey, at least I know that Yian Garuga doesn't molt his wings while I'm looking for him. Wow, imagine that. A winged monster has fucking wings. What sage advice. That's like if a pregnant woman went into labor and instead of delivering it, the doctor said, "Yep, just as I expected." It's a baby. Doctor, I just... That'll be $8 million. Bro, you cannot be fucking serious. Detect is completely useless. Anyways, if you still have 2 of your 5 senses that still work, you might notice a brand new monster that I just completely glossed over. Yian Garuga. This is a secret monster received by connecting your PS2 to your PSP with Monster Hunter Portable, the same device that also runs From Software's Monster Hunter Poco Poco Diary. This is the second time mentioning it in the video, but I can't help it because it's too strange. Unfortunately, I had neither a PSP or a PS2, but rather I was running this game on emulator, so I had to find a patch to get Garuga in the game. If you're in my shoes, I'll put the link to the patch in the description. It also adds this silly little cutscene. Just a word of warning though, I found Yian Garuga to be the hardest monster in the entire village, so good luck. Yian Garuga then is a crazed, psychotic purple bird. Every square inch of him, besides his head and tail tip, will make your weapon bounce. And that's a fun mechanic. He has potentially the biggest, most egregious charge hitbox out of any monster in the game. That is unbelievably fast and again, 0 frames of startup. His tail attacks poison, his breath attacks burn, and he has a particular love for roaring. Many think that this creature was the result of the unholy fornication between Yian and Kut-Ku, and I really don't know whether or not that's true. I think that they wanted to make a new monster, but were too lazy to make it very original. So they just stole moves from 2 existing monsters and made it resemble the pink one. He has a really cool color scheme though, I'll give him that. So Garuga is a psychopathic purple bird that moves fast, hits like a truck, and is also remarkably rare. Every Garuga that you find in this game always comes with a mangled scar on its head. This undoubtedly being the result of a hunter that wanted to become famous, and their vehicle to do so was poaching an endangered species. Before that hunter got smoked and was never heard from again. This was the toughest challenge the village could throw my way, and despite all the hiccups and pain points, Garuga fell on Crab Island. Now this is a village anybody could be proud of. A hub of bustling people, flourishing economy, healthy industry, and this one cursed cave that a little girl froze to death in front of with a box of matches. It's time to say sayonara to the village storyline, with everything complete.
But it did not matter much.
Decided what was a little frost,
And that he had never experienced.
It was never serious. It was never serious. Old-timer returned to his city career, and immediately the damage was felt, instantly going to time on a Gravios quest without even getting the monster to limp. When suddenly, a challenger appeared. A lot of this footage was streamed, and in one of these streams, a particularly Northern European bred product had appeared, wishing to challenge me in a game of monster PvP. Little did they know, I had a leftover crab from the Siennatar grind. It cannot be overstated how good it felt. Throwing down with their Raytheon punch bag and panning over the camera to see that my Shogun Siennatar was blissfully camping out underground, completely unhittable. The fight began with us both being dumbass heavy bowgun mains and trying to camp out each other's monsters on a ledge, trying to interrupt each other and all that. When Punchbag realized that the secret was to just spin, I had zero answer to that. Waffle did have the lead and things were looking grim until Crabman straight up just dipped underground and did not appear at all for the rest of the fight. Hellboner and Crabman, my 2 boys. After this, I treated my dear friends who loved me to a poisonous meal and set out to try again on Gravios. And believe me when I say, I tried, and I tried, and I tried. But this Gravios just wasn't coming along. He started doing these subtle sweeping beams and had more annoying monster minions, which were fine. You know, it's annoying and all that, but I just wasn't doing enough damage to him. The quest went to time. I fainted a lot. I was just being demolished. None of my attempts had even been enough to elicit a limp out of him. I tried reducing deaths by attaching a roar blocking shield to my bowgun. I tried crafting all sorts of unpurchasable ammo, and I cheesed him like he's never been cheesed before. The camping strat, for example. In the big donut zone, there's a ledge you can stand on that Gravios can't hit you from. To prevent heavy bowgun users from just cheesing the fight, they had an infinitely respawning best boy go up here and harass them. But by exploiting a game mechanic in poison, instead of shattering like they normally do, best boys will just die in the same way any other monster would, with their full intact body falling to the ground. This massively increases the time it takes for Vespoids to respawn. It's cheesy, but it gives you some easy, uninterrupted time to pummel Gravios. I was inventing new tech for this fight, and even that still is not even close to being enough. The despair was in full swing. This was my best idea, and yet here we are, returning to the city in shame. Could I do it by myself? Is it even possible? If I can't even get a limp out, what chances do I even have if I do manage to get him to limp? The 50-minute timer is just going to kick me out again. I have no answers, and so I asked Abiarugu, the rainbow pigment player, for advice. And according to him, the answer lies in Lunastra. The Empress armor set is geared with 2 invaluable skills, Expert and Guard. Expert may just be the best skill in the game, allowing your attacks to not be deflected by hard monster parts and allowing for critical hits. And Guard granting shielded weapons like Lance the ability to block moves that were previously unblockable. 2 skills that are perfect counters to Gravios. And so I got to work slaying Lunastras. The recipe calls for large amounts of Lunastra webbing, and so I stocked up on bounce bombs. The normally useless meme item turns out to be the only thing I'm able to use to break Lunastra's wings. Old Timer fought the Lunastra, and 1 became 2, and 2 became 5, and 5 became 10, and 10 became 20. Finally, enough material. But something was wrong. This isn't expert. It's anti-theft. This is a Chameleios-proof armor. The entire reason why I fought so many Lunastras was to get expert, and Lunastra just doesn't have it. Tiastra, though. Old Timer fought the Tiastra, and 1 became 2, and 2 became a lot. It helps that Tiastra is a pretty fun fight, and you can actually get him into a knockdown loop. By waiting until just after the first struggle when he's downed, doing the basic hammer swing combo should end with your hunter staggering Tiastra again, where you can then repeat the cycle ad infinitum. The timing's a little tricky, but it makes this fight so much easier. Also, maybe it would have been wise to check with Mr. Legendary Forge guy when he came back to town, but it doesn't matter. Even if I killed over 20 Lunastras for no reason, who cares? The point is, I got my mind's eye, and testing it against 2 hard-shelled crustaceans confirmed that my weapon no longer bounces. So I took it back to Gravios, and after a long, hard-fought battle full of heat beams and charges, I still lost. I spent an ungodly amount of time fighting all those fire dragons, and keep in mind, this is DOS, so a fair number of those quests ended in failure. Was it all worth it? Was it really, truly all worth it? Yeah. As it would turn out, I just needed a change of strategy. Before, I was targeting his wings, which I thought were weak points. But I would come to find out they are very much not weak. Spending the entire fight focusing his belly though, that's where it's at. The more you peel him open like an 80XL Barbie egg, the weaker his stomach gets. And once you break it to its limit, Gravios becomes absolutely putty in your hands. This one started limping at around the 20-minute mark and died around 25. I can happily state that Town Gravios is finally complete. Also, some of you may notice the absence of certain monsters that we've definitely hunted in the village. And normally I want to save this completion board for town and city monsters, since they're the real challenging ones, but some of the village monsters just aren't found in the cities. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put those guys on the board. And with that, we are now, from here on out, cleaning up and picking off every monster that remains. Hey guys, you remember Village Chameleios? How annoyingly tanky and strong he was? What about City Chameleios? You know, the one that's adjusted for 4 people? Tiastra's armor soft counters Chameleios, having the vocal cord paralysis debuff and having 20 points in expert, making every weapon bounce proof. Yet despite that, it still wasn't a simple task. City monsters just do not die. Even to the players that hoe themselves out to broken skills and meta weapons, nothing can ever compare to fighting in a team. I think the only reason that I ended up succeeding in this quest is with a heaping helping of my favorite dairy product, the cheese. Standing on this ledge of Jungle Area 1 puts you at the absolute perfect height to wail on Chameleios' soft face. I shit all over this Chameleios. And guess what? It still took me over 45 minutes. Despite all my complaints, I actually do like Chameleios. I don't know how they gave him all the most annoying abilities and still made him so well liked by the greater community, but maybe it's his endearing twitchiness or his music or the way he sleeps or the way he goes blah when he dies. Chameleios is fun and another monster we can tick off the list. Well, you know, that feeling when you're soon to confront something mortifying but unavoidable. Maybe you know that there's a test later at school, and you spend the entire day in despair knowing you haven't studied. Maybe it's a performance that you're worried about, like a play, and you forgot your lines, or a sport, but you haven't been conditioning. Maybe it's something darker, like death. The fear of death isn't even the scary part, but the thought that one day you'll be bedridden, looking forward to nothing but the end. Now that is truly terrifying. I had known this was coming, and yet I had other monsters to distract myself with. I didn't have to think about how I would sooner or later inevitably have to face him. But still, that thought lingered in my mind. He stood there in the middle of the path. And if I want to one day complete this challenge, I will have to face him. I will have to face Diablos. Diablos is a terror. Diablos is a nightmare. He has more health than any of the Elder Dragon trio. He's faster than and more aggressive than any of them. And he hits like a bullet train, and you're a confused deer. He was the strongest monster to wall me in my first video, where I so foolishly thought I had Dose figured out, completed. And now, he's here. With almost 4 times the health, and so much anger, there's black smoke puffing out of his face. Diablos is a terror. There are many creatures that call the desert their home, but none as ubiquitous or feared as the Tyrant. He's exactly like Monoblos from earlier, only 1,000 times more intent on decorating his home with your entrails like illegal Christmas lights. And he makes 2 massive points as to why he can. Diablos loves to dig. When your health pool is as cavernous as his, that's a problem. But because his ears are so attuned to noticing the tiniest of movements while he's underground, if you bring sonic bombs, which you definitely should do, you can create a massive disorientation in Diablos' brain while he's down below, sending him squabbling around trying to get out of the sand, this being the perfect time to attack. Because Diablos is super quick to anger and probably won't take kindly to being completely incapacitated. A big piece of advice that I can share here: if you attack Diablos while he's digging into the ground, immediately get out of the way. If you make him angry while he's digging, instead of waiting a moment to figure out where you are, he will instead instantly pop back out of the ground, doing the full damage of a regular attack. Unfortunate. Insane speed, insane damage, the ability to camp, questionable tail hitboxes, and then he gets angry. When he gets angry, his damage and speed goes up even further. Now you might be thinking, but what if you only attack him while he's calm and avoid him while he's angry? Oh, my simple-minded, naive viewer that smells very good, maybe. That will never work, because after a certain point in the Diablos fight, it'll only take 1 hit to anger him. 99% of this fight will be spent with Diablos absolutely fuming, so unfortunately, you cannot camp out the anger. So eventually, you're just going to have to be stuck with an eternally angry dual-horned demon armed with nothing but your own reckless foolishness. Do you want to know just how many times, how many attempts it took to beat this monster? How many grueling hours were spent in preparation, upgrading and changing strategies? Just how many attempts total did it take before I won? 2. He died on the 2nd attempt. That's nice. So here's a few tips. If you have a melee weapon, attack his legs until he falls over. Once he falls over, attack his tail. And if he doesn't have a tail, attack his belly. The next tip is to fight him at nighttime. In Dose, the changing seasons and times have different effects on monsters. Some monsters are stronger in the day and weaker in the night. Some are the opposite. Some become strong in breeding season, others don't care. Diablos is a monster that really loves the daytime but really hates night, so hunting him at night will end up with him being lower leveled. Monster levels are an array of variables that determine how strong a monster is. Their level can be altered by choosing when to fight the monster. So if you want the lowest level possible, the absolute weakest a Diablos can be, which is 14, fight it at night where he's at his weakest. Otherwise, you may be stuck with a level 19 Diablos, and comparing the two, yeah, that's rough. There's a lot more depth to it, but that basically sums up the whole system. For my 3rd tip, if you're using a shielded weapon, don't trust it to defend you from its upward thrust attack. Sometimes Diablos will move just forward far enough where it hits behind the shield instead of the shield itself. For you, that means you just got impaled in the most uncomfortable place. And for my last tip, bring sonic bombs. They are heroes for this fight. That was Diablos, I guess. He came surprisingly easy. That's nice. As for the list, I think we'll put him right here, being just an absolute bloody massacre front to back with very little fun and some jank to be had. After a quick Rathian, Oldtimer fancied a nice old-fashioned endangered species poaching session. And oh my god, everything that applied to Diablos applies doubly to Hub Garuga. Congratulations, buddy. You're such a problem you earned a high-effort intro. Good for you. Reaches one-hit anger, insanely fast, fucking enormous. Unlike Diablos though, the hitboxes on Garuga are absolutely abysmal. The small monsters are omnipresent, and Garuga has a gargantuan 12,000 health. 12,000 fucking health on a monster whose only weak spot is his head. You know, the part that also just so happens to shoot fireballs. The first sign that something is amiss happens when you load into the hunting grounds and it doesn't even spawn you at base camp. If you've played Monster Hunter before, you may be familiar with high rank. High rank is when the game pulls out all the stops, introducing new monsters and kitting out existing monsters with more health, stronger moves, maybe even some entirely new moves here or there. The trade-off being that you can improve your weapons past its current limit, crafting armors with even crazier skills that you thought possible. And one of the signature features of high rank is emergency starts, where your hunter is dropped in camp, where your hunter doesn't make it to the camp, assumedly due to the highly dangerous small monsters wasting time. Another feature is not issuing quest supplies immediately, because it supposedly takes the guild more time to safely deliver them. It was unclear to me at this point whether or not DOS had a high rank system, but this quest does feature emergency starts, delayed supply shipments, and much stronger small monsters. Is this a high rank quest? No. It's just an event quest that they've for some reason turned the difficulty up to 26 on. To fight Roid Rage Garuga, it is imperative that you kill the Kongas in Area 3, leave the area, come back, and kill them again. This will keep any more from respawning. Eventually Garuga will show up in this zone, and only then can you do battle. And the whole time, pray that he doesn't roar or charge. If you think he's about to roar, remember that every tiny movement a monster makes in DOS is a hitbox. That includes turning. So if you stand right next to his thigh and he squawks, he'll turn and knock you out of roar stun. If you get him in this zone, he'll rotate between Area 3 and Area 10. And for the love of Christ, do not engage in Area 10. I've nicknamed Area 10 Konga Island due to there being way too many Kongas that just don't stop spawning. And believe me, I tried to make it work. I tried fighting him with the Kongas there, but more often than not, I just got blown up for it. Yes, waiting until he leaves Konga Island wastes time where you could be whittling away at his titanic health pool, but it'll keep you from dying. I tried, and I tried, and tried and tried and tried. Parts were broken, wings clipped, eye torn out. Editing Pake here. I forgot to put it in the video, but Garuga does something really sick when flash bombed. Instead of attacking at random and being super pathetic, he actually looks around and attacks in your direction, like he's using other sensory signals to figure out where you are, like hearing and touch. I am stunned that such a sick mechanic was never touched ever again by this series. Anyways, back to the video. All that did was make Garuga angrier. Nothing worked. Nothing could even get him to limp. And I wish I could say that immediately following this, I plucked Oldtimer out of the jungle, took him on a crazy training arc that massively boosted his damage output, and we eventually overcame the purple bird. But this time, that didn't happen. No matter the attack boosting food eaten, trying out the strongest weapons, it all just didn't work. And before I knew it, the Black Wolf counterattack quest rotated out, meaning Garuga had truly gotten the better of me. The only thing I could really do now was raise Oldtimer's hunter rank and try again the next time Garuga came around. After a little more crab killing, it was time for a rematch with the Dragon of Steel, Kushala Deora. Kushala Deora's multiplayer scaled fight is, as you might expect, can't get close to him without getting pushed away. Spend most of the fight waiting for those chance moments where you can hit his head when he's not flying. When he gets downed the first time though, you can beat on its horns, and hurting its horns badly enough will turn off the wind pressure for the rest of the hunt. And at this point, the quest becomes super easy. It also helps that if you get the timing right, you can also do the hammer knockdown loop on Kushala the same way you can Tiastra, but it is a lot harder on the account of Kushala just does not hold still. Still, the Toenail of Doom is absolutely broken for dragon fights. After 25 minutes of struggle, the Dragon of the Winds went down. Oldtimer decided it would be fun to kill another one. Because at this point, Elder Dragons were the only thing to hunt that were worth the time sink, with 3 to 4 Elder Dragons per hunter rank.
Sure, I could also do 15 blue crabs for 1 hunter rank, but no.
I mixed in the occasional Black Gravios quest to try and capture him for PvP, figuring that since Gravios is one of the most annoying monsters period, he would be great to face off against other people, if not just to piss them off. But alas, he is only a 16% chance to capture, so I never got it. Also, during the HRP Elder grind time, I found a little bug with Tiastra where whenever he sleeps, his broken horns will always grow back for some reason. I'm guessing they just never had an animation for him sleeping without horns, so since they re-break upon wake up too, it's just a fun little bug. After a couple more dragons and volcanic wyverns, there was a new attacker at the gates of Dondorma. Rusted Kushala Deora. Rusted Kushala Deora, as far as I'm aware, is the first ever monster variant.
Variants are unique from subspecies and rare species because at one point they were just an ordinary monster. A Devil Joe, for example, could cannibalize and eat another Devil Joe to become a Savage Devil Joe.
A fountain of dragon energy completely overflowing with hunger and rage, taken to its absolute limit. Kushala Deora have scales very chemically similar to steel, and with his whole gimmick being wind pressure, those steely scales are prone to oxidation, or rusting. Having rusted scales is an extremely uncomfortable process for the Kushala Deora, and as such, makes it incredibly violent and irritable.
So upset, in fact, that the only known Kushala Deora to ever attack towns are ones that are rusted.
So until his body naturally decides it's time to molt, you're left with one grumpy Kushala. Everything that I just stated has absolutely no bearing on gameplay whatsoever though, because this is just a stock standard Kushala fight.
At least stock standard as far as the monster itself. The quest is not a stock standard Kushala fight due to the whirlpool of poison monsters spilling over themselves trying to get to me. Just listen to 2 seconds of this beautiful audio. Music to my ears.
Rusted Kushala does have this unique thing where the more you hit him, the more you rip off the rust and expose his next layer of underdeveloped silver skin, but that's about the extent of interesting new things he has. This quest was your ordinary Elder Repel, if your ordinary Elder Repel had way too many poison monsters. Oldtimer's thirst for dragon blood became unquenchable. He killed without mercy, felling any and all manner of beast with even the slightest hint of draconian features. That includes the Lady Dragon.
Many dragons met their end on Oldtimer's climb to Hunter Rank 30, but eventually, he made it. And it is 75 below zero. At Hunter Rank 30, Oldtimer was bestowed the title of Samurai, and was warned of an encroaching threat. An unknown monster is making its way toward the fortress protecting Dondorma. The Dragon Watch is working around the clock to identify it, whatever it is, with the Guildmaster entrusting Oldtimer as the main line of defense that stands between Dondorma and the unknown threat. The game acted like it was going to keep the monster a secret, but immediately after ending this conversation, it added a Shen Gaoren book, so cool surprise. For the sake of the narrative though, I'm going to keep speaking as if there was still a completely unknown Colossus on a warpath. While Oldtimer waits for the approaching threat, he decides there was no time to wait, and he must train. And what better way to train than by finishing his final round of hunter exams?
The first exam starring the fish. I failed the quest. It's not my fault though. Plesioth used his unmatched corporate power to have the Monster Hunter team release the launch trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds, which I just was not going to skip. To my horror, they added Ellen DeGeneres to the game. Fish run back. This exam is a Plesioth fight that also wants you to hunt some Genprey. Pretty easy. Shogun Sianatar and his quadruplets is the next exam, and because I have been absolutely stomping crabs for months at this point, this was a cookout. Thank you, Father. Thank you. The final hunt is, well, that sucks. I went the route of fighting nighttime Diablos, thinking that since it worked so well last time, this time it's bound to be the same, right? Which ultimately led to the situation that you're seeing on screen. So I have to kill Diablos, kill 4 Cephalos, which each have so much health they can be considered their own large monster, and kill 4 Genprey, all without running out of time. But this quest was a kind of turning point. You see, I never really realized just how powerful the Toenail of Doom really is, so I switched to using it, and Diablos died in just under 40 minutes. For a Diablos hunt, that's like circling the globe in 16 seconds. Thankfully, the Cephalos decided they wouldn't just ignore me, so they too were crushed under the preposterous might of the Toenail of Doom. And if you thought the Cephalos fell fast, the Genprey got chopped up like a hot knife through a Rathian. Normally I would despair at seeing this lineup, but one Diablos has twice the health of every single monster here lumped together. One thing that I simply have to give Wild kudos for is making Gravios fun. They hadn't done it by Generation 4, so I just assumed that it was impossible. But they made Big Carapace Man great, and all it took was making him super fat. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, they really upped the plumpness of returning monsters, didn't they? It doesn't matter how good the Toenail of Doom is, the green Plesioth Water Lance just can't be replaced when it comes to countering Gravios. And also that green trident design is just super cool. Volcano small monsters all unite under the simple-minded belief that all humans need to die, and as such, pretty much the entire fight was spent on Gravios. The Eye of Prey and Sianatar goals were met just on the account of they don't know how to leave us the fuck alone and died by proxy. So despite there being the extra goal of hunting small monsters, this was a typical Gravios hunt. As Old-Timer returned to Dondorma, he noticed something odd. The ground was shaking. The giant monster cloaked in shadow loomed overhead. It was none other than a colossal Lao-Shan Lung with really weird stub feet. Except Lao-Shan Lung doesn't have stub feet. And as the figure drew around the corner, it revealed its true form. The fortress crab, Shen Gaoren. Shen Gaoren is similar to Lao-Shan Lung in a few ways. He's massive and he's slow, but that's where the similarities end. Lao-Shan is a relatively docile monster when he invades. He simply wants to get through and only harms you if you stand in his way. Shen Gaoren, on the other hand, is an extremely violent behemoth that enters zones with pissball explosions, starts every quest by trying to spawn kill you in the cutscene, and really loves flashing his disgusting crab butt. So Mr. Fortress Crab is the big guy of Monster Hunter 2. Did they learn anything at all from the original big guy? No. They arguably made this one even more annoying and boring. Luckily, the knowledge I amassed on Freedom Unite's Shen is applicable here on Dose Shen. The best strategy for beating him being hitting one leg until it turns red, and then once that turns red, beat all the other legs until they're red, all the while avoiding footsteps and stomps. He does occasionally do this very deliberate front claw slam attack that I do not know who is supposed to hit because he never even aims for you, he just lets it rip in front of him. And because his claw is so narrow, even if you were in front of him, I doubt that would ever hit. So I guess you could say this monster stalls for our benefit. Thank you, my friend. Obviously, a metric fuckton of strain is being put on those legs carrying all this, so injuring them will benefit you in a couple of ways. Firstly, hitting his bruised up legs can occasionally knock it down, or it will try to rest, this being the only opening to hit his weak point in the crab face. Secondly, you can continue beating on the legs until they aren't just bruised, but they're glowing red. Not really sure why it turns red because his blood is this bluish gray color, but who cares? He's a crab. If you can get all 4 legs to glow red in pain, all of his weight will come crashing down due to the lack of support. This quest was luckily a fantastic success. An old-timer sent the invader crab away on its gross, mutilated legs. It is with great sadness that I say that while this does count as a success, the quest didn't end in the funny way where Shen Gaoren just faceplants. And while I wanted to refight him, Shen Gaoren, throughout my entire time playing this game, would just not fucking rotate back into the active quest pool. So that's fun. As much as I desperately wanted to fight Shen Gaoren again to get more experience in how he works, sometimes that's just how DOS is to you. And again, that's one of my problems with having quests only available at random days at random times, sometimes not appearing for months. It's a bummer too, because I like this monster. He's one of those monsters that they use once and then refuse to bring back ever again. Him and like half of the Gen 3 roster. Please, Laggy, I miss you. When the dust settled, Oldtimer spoke to the Guildmaster, who congratulated him on reaching Hunter rank 31. Oldtimer had yet again single-handedly prevented the great city of Dondorma from becoming a mass grave. And because of his bravery, the monster Shen Gaoren can be studied in greater depth. With such high acclaim, he even drew the attention of an enigmatic figure, the Grand Elder, His Immenseness, leader of Dondorma. The Grand Elder requested the Guildmaster to extend an invitation to the Elder Hall. And with a name like Elder Hall, Oldtimer assumed that the guild was finally allowing him time to retire, having forged his name in the Dondorma Hall of Fame. But the Guildmaster kept speaking. Oh no! I need you guys to understand that everything so far has been a baby's game. I had yet to rake myself over the coals of Monster Hunter DOS high rank. At the northernmost point of Dondorma Square, there is a lone guard that prevents anyone from climbing to the top. But now, Oldtimer has earned himself a seat next to the best of the best. The heroes among heroes. And there's no time to stop now. It's time to climb all the way to the top of the ladder to reach the absolute pinnacle of the pecking order, or die trying. This is high rank.
The snow fell without warning upon the man in the
And the fire was dead. Where it had burned was a pile of fresh snow. The Grand Elder, His Immenseness, welcomes Oldtimer to the Elder Hall and reminds Oldtimer that everything he's been through up until this point was like a wet dream, and recognizes that yes, your life has been hell to get here, hasn't it? After that, I may have gotten jump scared by a book for the first time in my entire life. Oh my god, holy fuck. If you know, you know. Is that better? Do my eyes deceive me? Do my eyes deceive me? Is that a book on the monkey? Is the monkey in the game? The new quest receptionist is this Wyverian lady who immediately told me that if I don't get better, I'm going to throw away my life for nothing. Hey, did you know you're not good enough?
What?
Did you know you're just going to die and nobody's going to remember you?
What the fuck? I just met you.
Wow, thanks for the vote of confidence, guys. What other new pieces of advice can you give me?
Okay, get in.
She warns of monsters even stronger than elder dragons. Wow, someone take a guess at whatever she might be referring to. Not being very confident in Oldtimer's ability to survive, they made it so he's unable to face down high-rank elder dragons until Hunter rank 40. So maybe they're showing him some level of concern. Mr. Minister is the new issuer of guild exams. This lady does nothing but tell you not to get cocky, kid. The gray-haired dragon lady sells questing supplies and is the best, and we can accept quests from this lady, which we do. The first one being a blue Yian Kut-Ku. Before departing, however, we're stopped by this wandering dragon lady, who asks if we know about the tale of the Shakalaka. I wouldn't have known otherwise, and nobody else would have either, but this piece of dialogue right here is the game's one and only hint towards something that we're going to need later that we just cannot avoid to get some monsters. High rank quests are how they normally are in Monster Hunter titles. You spawn at a random location and your supplies come in later. Also, monsters are harder. Going back to the monster level system, village monsters operate in the 1 to 9 range, which is why they're normally super pathetic. City low rank then operates on levels 10 to 19. Justifiable since these are multiplayer quests and they're scaled to be hunted in a group of 4, with some of the lower leveled guys being scaled to a point where you could reasonably hunt them solo. High rank uses 20 through 25. meaning the weakest high rank monsters are significantly stronger than the strongest low rank monsters, and a decimal shy of 2.5 times the attack. There's also the third variable in defense, but I can't really tell if that means it takes 30% more damage from attacks or 30% less damage. I'm going to assume that it means less because Jesus Christ, monsters in high rank just don't die. This dumb blue cuckoo bird took up more than 30 minutes of quest timer, lasting longer than most city Teostras. But believe it or not, the large monsters having stronger stats mean nothing. You want to know what the worst part of high rank is? The little bastard small monsters are absolutely swarming everywhere, which, by the way, also get buffed in high rank. Not only that though, because they get a revamp. Remobras, which are normally only found in places crawling with bad omens and elder dragons, are now everywhere. They're in primary schools, they're in soup kitchens, and if that's not bad enough, almost every Vespoid gets replaced with this bastard.gif Great Thunderbug. Shakalakas that have way too much health for their size start appearing out of nowhere in order to gut you. And that's not all, because almost every single quest from here on out just places another large monster just roaming the map, whose sole purpose is to piss you off. Luckily, the devs considered how annoying this would be and added dung bombs that repel most monsters. Oh, silly game. The word most implies that dung bombs work on a somewhat large number of monsters. In reality, dung bombs work on fucking 4, 2 of which aren't an issue anyways. That one isn't unlocked until late game, and this one never shows up as an invader. What purpose do you serve? It's okay though, at least on that tiny microscopic array of monsters, it at least works, right? Immediately after the blue Yian Kut-Ku, Old Timer went and faced a Diablos to see just what kind of torture he was in for, and shockingly, he died. The next quest he went on was against Green Plesioth. Thankfully, 50 Cephalos showed up on the quest to make sure Old Timer didn't fall asleep during bow gameplay. I'm sure a lot of people are expecting me to rant about the fish, since he is like the icon of old Monster Hunter's awful hitboxes, but as long as you bring a ranged weapon, this goes from a slobber knocker of a fight to the most boring, repetitive gameplay the series has ever made. At least for a monster that isn't a walking mountain. Also, do your best to stay near the water's edge, because you never know when that roaming Gendrome is going to show up, and you don't want him to know you're there. After 40 minutes of sleep aid, the fish died in the water, and I couldn't get any carbs. Old Timer, that's what you get for being old. Next is a volcano bout with 2 angry blue crabs. What I initially said about Shogun being one of the most fun fights rings true here as well. He's fun, not very janky. What's not fun is when there's 2 of them. Large monsters in this game really love to stick together, like they know that crabs together strong. And if one crab leaves the area, the other needs to follow. When it gets to this point, it feels like you're not playing an action RPG, but a simulated tragedy wherein you take the role of the fucking victim. One of my biggest friends in the CNSR fight was the Monster Hunter Perfect Roll. It's really hard to pull off, especially in DOS, because you have to have incredible timing. But the first 7 frames of your roll have total invulnerability.
Yes.
Meaning that if the hitbox coming your way doesn't linger and isn't active enough, you can just roll through it. Normally that means nothing, because when monsters do a move, their whole entire bodies just become a giant hitbox that just sits there for 5 seconds. But luckily, Shogun Sianitar isn't one of those monsters. His hitboxes are all quick and precise, so a large part of his fight is feeling like a ninja, waiting until the last moment and dodging. It won't save you forever, because the Shogun is the last monster to show mercy, but if you're in a pinch with a giant boulder-cutting scythe coming your way and you don't have time to get out of the way, you can roll right through it. I beat this quest by the skin of my teeth. Shogun has one of the widest charges in DOS that he can pull just out of nowhere, which he always does 3 times in a row. And if you get hit by the first charge, you always get hit by the third one, with no exceptions. After way too many hair-raising moments that were saved by a clutch perfect roll, or just plain luck, mostly that second thing, the second crab died moments before timeout at 15 minutes, securing a wealth of hunter rank points. Following this was just a lot of monster hunts. I won't go into detail over many of these because they're all just monsters that I've hunted before, but I do want to draw attention to this one. a purple Gypsyros quest that began like this. Old Timer had barely even loaded in before the monster was throwing hands. There wasn't even enough time for me to control him before taking damage, and I think that beautifully illustrates the dose experience. Some might call it blatantly unfair, but there's something about this quest start that I just can't be mad at. When this happened, my only reaction was to chuckle in a "that's my dose, baby" kind of way. And believe it or not, it's situations like these that make me like dose. I'll explain what I mean later. Following this came more quests, and generally, more grinding. Sometimes you'll get a rare spawn spot in high rank with a secret area with rare items. After running around mashing circle because this game doesn't tell you what places are gathering points, I happened upon a peculiar item. A Master's Skull. Older Monster Hunter games used to be dark, but they were still overall pretty lighthearted. There's no way the Master Skull can be. Yeah, that's straight up a human skull Old Timer just picked up and put in his fanny pack. This really was a wildly different game, huh? This quest for Double Plesioth, where one has paranoid schizophrenia, is unfortunately very awful. Aside from the obvious annoyance here in that guy, this is the first look at one of the worst small monsters. Great Thunderbugs. Great Thunderbugs are an incessant swarm of regular Thunderbugs with the ability to paralyze. And on top of paralyzing, they just do a lot of damage, and they're hard to hit because they're so mobile. They mostly take up the spots that Vespoids filled in low rank, but they're usually more obnoxious because at least Vespoids die in one hit and don't spawn in twos. It was a Herculean feat of black magic fuckery that this was a first try quest completion. Now that regular Plesioth can be left to fight his demons alone. The next and final quest before coming to the realization that playing through, running anything but the Toenail of Doom was a bad idea is this Red Kezu quest. Kezu does a lot of easy to dodge, slow startup attacks that should never hit you unless he roars, which makes just using a ranged weapon a baller play. But there is a certain pitfall to this idea that makes this strat null and void. That pitfall is this guy. If I had a nickel for every time I died to a lightning ball after getting roar stunned by the other Kezu, I'd have like 45 cents. They just don't leave each other alone. In most quests, I can rationalize being easier in multiplayer, but with this one, I get the suspicion that if one Kezu roars, the entire party is stunned and all four of them cart. So this quest is 50 minutes of the girl boss Red Kezu towing around her favorite tier 3 sub. And if you thought one Kezu standing there and screaming 11 times in a row was annoying, what if you just double it? This was the part of the story that I realized that dung pods, apart from looking more impressively stinky, just don't do anything. Wait, Kezu is blind and sees through smell. Shouldn't that at least disorient it? No! This quest is full of my patented Finwisses. Not a single other quest in this game is so blatantly unfair with how it handles monster roars or small monster placement. My only choice was to switch off of my weak to electric Shogun Siennatar gunner armor and switch to my tougher, more defensive Tiastra Blade Master armor, thus going from being one-tapped to two-tapped, which doesn't really matter because if you get hit by one Kezu, you're getting hit by the other. Now, I'm making this video as a pseudo walkthrough so that way the people that want to play DOS will have a resource in case they get stuck. And my advice to you for this quest is to get lucky. Get lucky so that the two Kezus don't follow each other everywhere. Get lucky so that when they are together, they don't roar. Get lucky so that when you're paralyzed either from a roar-stunned lightning ball or an angry thunderbug, the hitboxes somehow decide to spare your life. Because 1 in 1,000 times, the hitboxes will end up sparing you instead of killing you. That's how epic the hitbox design is. I'm being outskilled. I'm being outskilled. I'm being outskilled. I got outskilled. I got outskilled. I got outskilled. I got outskilled. Fucking outskilled. What can I say? L, fuck me. I'm so bad at this game. What the hell? After all that, maybe you might just get lucky enough to finish off the Red Kezu, much to White's chagrin. After Kezu came Gravios with a complimentary Iodrome. Gravios has a new sweeping beam in high rank, which is only really deadly if you're in a group hunt. But if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you better kiss your sweet keister goodbye. Gravios may seem like a tank, but it actually has the same amount of health as Plesioth. The problem is his rock-hard carapace that becomes even harder in high rank. If you break his chest open in the first 10 minutes of the hunt, you're probably going to win. I thought I was going to win, but I ran out of cool drinks. This shouldn't be an issue because the guild will supply you with enough that'll carry you the rest of the hunt. Normally, old gen high rank quests will get you your supplies after 5 to 10 or at the most extreme 15 minutes. But Dose doesn't play by those rules. Because on this quest, after 35 minutes, I checked, and there still were no life-saving cool drinks. At that point, it was just a game of going in, hitting the monster one time, then running away to heal on the camp bed. They did eventually come in though, and it only took 39 minutes and 30 seconds, but they arrived. There will certainly be plenty of reasons to use all this stuff in the remaining 10 minutes of the quest. With immense luck, Gravios was captured, and then I tried Diablos, which didn't go well, and neither did Blinganga. So this quest has you fight the 2 monkeys that eventually made it back to Wilds and became a tubby boy with a nowhere near as iconic roar. And as the clock ticked down through it, it began to dawn on me that neither of them were going down. And even if I got them close, they were sure to use the forbidden Blango technique and just jump between mountain zones, being completely unhittable the entire time. Is this the 3rd fucking time I've been walled by Blinganga? None of those attempts ended well. And after a while, all the losing really started to get on my nerves. So I decided maybe we should do a quest that I know I can do to upgrade a weapon that I like. And that's when the Remobras happened. I never sat there and just had a 1v1 with the Remobra, so I never could tell just how unbelievably tanky they were. But here we are, and as a lovely little gift, they made them respawn indefinitely. I personally don't trust that a Plesioth hunt that usually goes past the 40-minute mark will be possible if I'm regularly taking 2.5-minute intermissions to kill a flying poison snake with the health of a Devil Joe, so yeah. After all those hunts, slaying nearly every single high-rank version of monsters that were already beaten, Old Timer looked down at his guild card to check his hunter rank. It read Hunter rank 32. He had gained 1 hunter rank since joining high rank. The only way to reach new monsters is by reaching hunter rank 41. With each new level being further away than the last, it just wasn't sustainable. Every quest gave an average of 700 points, most of which he was now failing. And it's not like he could go back to low rank quests because they now scaled down the point rewards for beating those. Old Timer didn't know what to do. This was so far the lowest point in my Dose career. Quests that used to be perfectly fine just weren't happening. I was being walled by smaller, weaker monsters. Every single corner was a new mountain to climb. One with sheer cliffs and dangerous winds. And I just didn't know how much more I could take. At this rate, Old Timer was on the road to end up like the master whose skull was cast to the wayside by nature, rotting in the desert sands, forgotten by people in history. Something needed to change, and so he turned to other hunters, doing random quests. Hunter rank points are hunter rank points. Somehow this ended up as a really hard dual Diablos quest in the Hunter's Dojo. In order to beat them, one Diablos had to be put to sleep in the corner, and the other had to be lured away from the sleepy guy. If done correctly, you can have a team of 3 gunners and that one dude that doesn't realize that friendly fire exists, shredding the first Diablos. The dude that orchestrated the whole thing kept leading the Diablos' thrust attack into me, and then immediately fainted afterwards, so that's kind of funny. Even if it was a loss, it was still a fun loss. And with that wind in my sails, I decided to go out and fight a monster that I knew would give me a wealth of hunter rank points. Holy fuck, I wish I didn't. If you've played any older Monster Hunter game, or even a newer one, and can only imagine what a prototype version of this monster was like, you know what's about to happen. What I'm about to talk about. Yes, it's time. It's Rajang time. Yes, the situation is that bad. He's getting his own chapter. Now, believe me, I've fought every iteration of the monkey before. In Freedom Unite, in 4, in World, in Rise, even Furious Rajang from 4, World, and Rise. Don't hold a candle. Not even an Apex Rajang You know, the one that stops mid-fight to throw a fucking planet at you every 12 seconds? That one's unbelievably hard. But Dose Rajang, maybe it's because Dose Rajang is just the tiniest, teeniest bit fucking massive. Every single little bit of Rajang feels designed to be absolutely terrifying. Maybe it's the jet black fur with the beady red eyes and the curled bull horns. Or maybe it's the fact that you can fit the entire Burj Khalifa into one bicep. Those looks do translate over to gameplay too. He's crazy hard, unmatched firmness. Old Timer got hit with boatloads of the old hot Rajang. Everybody that goes against this monster just disappears. Probably because they got their skull peeled open like a fucking banana peel. This monster hurts. He hands out Okos like it's no one's business, and if you survive, consider yourself extremely lucky. No monster so far has come even close to matching Rajang's aggression and speed. And then, he gets angry. Oh boy, does Rajang get angry? When Rajang reaches a certain point, he'll get angry on hit. And what does he do on that hit? He instantly roars. If Lady Luck is smiling upon you, there is a small chance that the subsequent attack to the roar will miss completely. Either because the impressively good Monster Hunter Dose hitbox design deemed it so, or because you triggered his angry roar at this weird diagonal angle and he didn't bother to refocus you before throwing his next attack. Now you have to deal with a giant, crazy fast monkey that eats Kirin horns for breakfast. By the way, did you know Rajang eating Kirin horns was a myth started in this game? That's because in PvP tournaments, you have the option to feed your monsters, and Rajang just so happens to be able to be fed Kirin horns. It wasn't until much later that we actually got confirmation in the form of this world cutscene. That's how Rajang gets his lightning powers to go Super Saiyan. Did you also know that Rajang is a glass cannon? His head and forearms are his weakest points, but they're also registered as Earthquake Makers, Dragon Crushers, and Hunter Destroyers. If you are ballsy enough to go for those parts though, rest assured he has very little health. Here's a list of monsters with more health than Rajang. He's sighted in places of both chilling cold and unbearable heat, even standing in lava from time to time. Why? Fuck you, that's why. Rajang goes wherever Rajang goddamn feels like going, and if that means total immersion in molten magma, fuck it. Now we would have more research done on him. But everybody that bears witness to the monkey just keeps dying. Occasionally you may get a part break on his horn, which, good job, great. Here's a tow truck to carry around your titanic testicles. But the monkey never forgets. Your apology will be penned in your own blood. He is so mobile and aggressive. I have had multiple cases happen where he just straight up fell off the mountain because he jumps so much. And when he jumps back onto the plane to keep beating you up, he adds in a completely unnecessary front flip and bro, I didn't know you were chill like that. Okay, I'm sure you guys get it now. The monkey is not to be taken lightly. So I will end the rambling there and move on to why Rajang became one of Monster Hunter's most iconic monsters. You know, apart from being a notoriously hard fight in every game that has him. Rajang is a wandering super predator, just barely dodging the Elder Dragon classification because he can be classified as a Pelagus, now fanged beast. That doesn't stop him from throwing down with actual Elder Dragons though, and either wiping the floor with them or at worst ending in a draw. Super predators like Rajang are an elite crew of monsters that aren't Elder Dragons, that have the same disastrous effects on the ecosystem as Elder Dragons, and with the power to boot. Think, oh, this part of the continent is inhabited by an angry cucumber. Now we have to sanction it off to everyone until our best hunter can get rid of it. Originally, Rajang was thought to be a dragon because he had wings, though as the guild became more acquainted with Big Monkey Man, it became clear that those weren't wings but giant flaps of fur that stand up whenever electricity courses through his body. He can fly though because he's Rajang. Of course he can. Rajangs are naturally born with the power of lightning, but they need to be much older to weaponize it to its full effect. In order to wield electricity like a weapon, a Rajang has to first eat something already crackling with lightning energy. And Rajang's choice of meal is the Kirin's horn. What you might see as nature's most deadly electrical weapon ever created Rajang sees as a tasty chunk of candy, with a little extra crunch. Once the young Rajang eats the Kirin's horn, he will then on forever be able to use his latent electric powers. We actually see Rajang's process of hunting down a Kirin and eating its horn in Monster Hunter World's Iceborne DLC, where I presume this Rajang first unlocks its lightning powers. Though he could already have his electricity unlocked and just wanted to maim a Kirin. That sounds exactly like something Rajang would do. In later games, he had this thing called Rampage Mode, which made his arms hard as steel, but thankfully Dos does not have Rampage Mode. Dos Rajang is straight to the point, just an angry monkey through and through. Rajang takes a lot of inspiration from the legend of the Monkey King. The Monkey King is a Chinese literary and religious figure, with the strength to carry 2 heavy mountains and run, jump 34,000 miles in one somersault, and shapeshift into many earthly creatures. But when he does shapeshift, he cannot transform his tail. Just like in the legend, Rajang's tail is unique. It's a weak spot that can only be broken with an ice weapon, ice being Rajang's elemental weakness. When Rajang's tail is broken, it effectively switches off his anger mode. Though if it's totally severed, which we see in later games, the Rajang goes even further beyond and becomes a furious Rajang. The whole tail-breaking monkey thing is also seen in Dragon Ball, another story inspired by the legend of the Monkey King. Rajang also takes inspiration from Dragon Ball because, obviously, he is known by all as the pinnacle of strength. Relative to size, there is not a single living creature that can outmuscle Rajang. And good God, does it show. Unpredictable movements, big hitboxes, fists that make craters, and horns that can rip through anything, all tightly wrapped in a mortifyingly muscular package. I cannot tell you how it happened, but holy shit, I broke both his horns in just 30 minutes of quest time. I'm not sure how body part health scales with level, if it scales at all, but just going off of base health, 2 broken horns is 2,000 damage minimum. That's 2,000 out of 3,500. If I had kept that pace, I could have beaten the Rajang, and on the first attempt no less. But sadly, the clock just kept ticking down, and Rajang hadn't limped once, hitting me with the Dos classic roar to get bodied combo to finish it off. I had run out of time on my first attempt, but Rajang was low. He had to be. And it was so shocking to me that the first run went so well, which had the unfortunate side effect of giving me hope that I could do it. It was possible. It had to be. I got so close. And so I tried again, and I tried again, and I tried again. With the recent string of losses already weighing heavy on my back, and my desperation to take home at least one win, it was do or die. Either I would break Rajang, or Rajang would break me. And looking back, that was the dumbest line of thinking that I could have ever adopted for this, as it led to by far the most crushing defeat yet. Oh my god! No! No, 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 no! You were right, old hoss. You were right. This was by far the lowest point in the whole journey. It was getting to a point where the game was putting strains on my actual real-life relationships. Was it worth it to continue the challenge? Can every monster in this game be done solo? Is it even possible? And if it is possible, was I even capable? Oldtimer was looking like that image of Plankton from the SpongeBob movie. And despite his status as a fictional video game character, even he was giving in to despair. So I went down to think, well, on a Blinganga hunt. Maybe I don't need to do this solo. Maybe beating Monster Hunter Dos is enough of a challenge on its own. Maybe it's just not worth it. Given the rotating nature of the quests in this game, I'm usually not meant to be fighting those monsters at that point. Sure, there's probably some crackhead god gamer that can probably kill Rajang with my current loadout, but he isn't required at this point. And even so, if my goal is to hunt every single monster in the game solo, I could probably grind up a little past Rajang and come back for him. But what would it take? What if I go ahead and get stronger gear and even that won't be enough? What stronger gear could I get? And just as Blinganga fell, an opportunity had appeared at the gates of Dondorma. Lao-Shan Lung and its high-rank subspecies became available as quests. And what you guys don't know is that I've been withholding some information. The Toenail of Doom, or the Dragon Breaker, is actually not the final evolution of this weapon. It can be taken even further, promising 104 extra attack, 80 extra dragon element, and blue sharpness. Sharpness is everything in DOS, as I've come to find out. And maybe it could be the key to end the losing streak. I cannot state how lucky I am that they allowed people of Hunter rank 31 to join Lao-Shan Lung quests in high rank. The mountain dragon dropped left and right. Old timer drooling for the new weapon, checking the foundry after every attempt. Whether by his lonesome or in groups, whether by strangers or his sensei Abiyarugu, Old Timer was absolutely determined to kill every last Lao on the planet. And if it wasn't for the monster parts, it was for the wealth of HRP that Lao granted. A ruby, yes, that's all the Lao parts required. But it wasn't just the Lao hammer he wanted, nay, for he also wanted the Lao-Shan Lung Auroras S armor. With full Auroras, he could unlock both Mind's Eye and Handicraft, two of the most broken armor skills DOS has to offer. You would also need Nova Crystals, an exceedingly rare drop by Gypsaros, which, like many things in DOS, is a complete scam as I never got a single one from the Rubber Bird. After a ton of grinding, Old Timer wore his new drip with pride. He needed Dragonite ore though to bring it to its fullest potential, an easy get when you go to the Ancient Tower. Now with full Lao Auroras armor, he looked at the skills and found that it doesn't even have enough handicraft. It doesn't even have enough handicraft. We were too far into this though, so we wore it and headed out to the horse. At this point, full-time DOS mentor figure Abiyarugu told me that the equine bastard has a colossal 15% chance to drop them, and Old Timer was freshly Hunter rank 39, high enough to tag along on Elder Dragon quests. From its dead horse body, Old Timer peeled exactly what he needed, the Nova Crystal. Not sure why this horse has a rock in its body. Maybe it's a gallstone or something. But regardless, combining the Lao-Shan materials and Nova Crystals, Old Timer turned the Toenail of Doom into the Toenail of Destiny. Except he's too poor, so he quick sold some monster parts. The stagnation was over, and Old Timer was once again on top of the hunting world, being entitled Lord of Hunters. The second to last Hunter exams were an absolute joke, except for the final fight. Time for my personal favorite fight in all of Monster Hunter DOS, Yamatsukami. To prevent another Rajang situation, I decided I would start this quest with multiple people and then go back solo. I understand that is a rule violation, but this is the only hunt that I've done that for, and you gotta understand that monkey, he left an imprint. I still carry the pain. But anyways, remember the giant umbrella octopus balloon guy in that jungle Easter egg? Yeah, here he is now a legitimate fight. I wasn't expecting much because I was so used to the Freedom Unite version where he just sits there in a donut and occasionally spins. But the DOS version of the Yama fight is so cool. I did not realize just how watered down Freedom Unite's fight is. The location is the Ancient Tower, which I didn't realize until now was all designed around Yamatsukami. That big hole in the wall and those massive cylindrical rooms with hollowed out centers are there for him to float up in as hunters attack. This room has that window there so that he can flood the room with giant thunderbugs. This whole hunting grounds is designed around the giant flapjack. You're meant to fight him in the tower segments as a siege and attack him where he is, but they locked his movement between zones behind time spent in a room and not damage dealt in that room. And that became apparent when I saw that absolutely everybody had immediately climbed to the top of the tower and were just waiting for the final battle to start. It's a shame because Yama does do cool things in the siege portion that I don't think most hunters will ever see. Like this fake out into a terrifying screaming bite attack that Oko's. This is the AI that they ripped from DOS and put in Freedom Unite, but the fight completely changes when you get to the top of the tower. On my first non-solo attempts, Old Timer reached the top of the tower and found his team, all beating the shit out of this rock that spawns in to keep you from being able to leave the area. Wait. No, it's you. Why was I programmed to feel pain? This is how it's gonna be, huh? You're gonna kill me by locking me in this place with a dangerous dragon? How can you smile knowing there's no room left in heaven? That's how they come after you. The boulders simply block hunters in places with nowhere to move.
There is nothing left.
By waiting till a later date to solo Yama, I had angered God, and he responded by striking down 2 of my teammates via stroke. Leaving me and Coach Abyarugu to fend for ourselves. And at the 20-minute mark, Yama appeared from the clouds, getting ready to throw tentacles. This tower top fight is very different from the rest of the hunt. A lot of his horizontal attacks will no longer work, so here he's forced to slap downwards in your general direction. In the dozens of hours that I spent fighting this thing, I can count the number of times that I've actually been hit by this attack on one hand. He just swings way too far in front and behind. The real danger is the ultimate flapjack pancake, where he brings down all of his balloon mountain weight right on your illustrious scalp. This normally being an Oko. It's very easy to avoid though, as long as you pay attention to his shadow and aren't unfortunately underneath a tentacle. Yamatsukami is a balloon-like creature that uses an extremely hot gas to stay afloat, which he can diffuse in an attack. The more you beat on Yama, the more gas escapes his body, as you can see here. Where at the start of the fight, he's big and round, and halfway in, he's flat and sad and green. If you punish him enough in his most deflated state, he drops down and flops on the ground for a while. And if you have enough people on your squad, you can stun lock him until the end of the hunt. Sometimes instead of being stun locked though, he'll just pop up and continue the fight as if nothing happened. Also, people always talk about the terrifying human-like teeth, but I had completely forgotten about the terrifying rows of needle teeth behind them. The floating mountain dragon is an incredibly unusual elder dragon that usually chills out in the ground, letting ages pass before getting bored and floating away, leaving a lot of passive observers bewildered that a piece of the earth just got up and floated into the horizon. Because of his lazy lifestyle, an entire ecosystem of trees, moss, and even animals grow on his back, with the ecosystem extending into his gut, being a haven for thunderbugs. Because the dragon's gut has such rich organic matter to eat, these great thunderbugs have been supercharged with the ability to literally explode, as if regular giant thunderbugs weren't annoying enough. While not normally an aggressive monster, especially out in the wild, Yama has been known to attack hunters trespassing in the tower and Dondorma. This first run-in on Yamatsukami went down without incident, and Oldtimer returned to the Elder Hall at Hunter rank 41, now having the ability to initiate his own Elder Dragon quests, and a long ways before the final boss at Hunter rank 51. Oldtimer held his nose to the grindstone and began the final chapter.
Alternately rubbing his hands. Alternately rubbing his hands.
The very next day, after beating Yamatsukami, a new Yama found itself at Dondorma's gates, right next to a rusted Kushala. And I thought this would be the perfect time to fight Yama, with the heavy siege artillery and fortification of Dondorma. Surely, this would be a simple fight, right? Haha, wrong! This fight is so bad compared to the tower fight because of 2 things. Firstly, this Yama loves to hover just out of range, to the point where Hammer's already garbage hitbox can't stand a chance. And secondly, he no longer does the floating look at the shadow to dodge move. If he wants to pancake, he does it instantly. 0 windup. Those take this fight from one of the coolest and most fun and unique to the biggest slogfest in the game. Despite the instant fall though, his worst move is by far the Great Thunderbug Summon, because obviously summoning 6 amped up small monsters is a recipe for disaster, especially since Yama has a monstrous base 15,000 health. My strat was to just hit his front whiskers and pray that I do not incur the wrath of the pancake. I don't really know whether these count as fins, tentacles, or a part of his mouth, but while hitting them it seemed to be staggering him a lot more. So I think it does more damage. Then when he fell out of the sky, I hit his mouth, and when I couldn't reach his mouth, I hit his body. Doing so, you should be able to build up a ton of damage. Also, get familiar with the pattern at which he moves his whiskers. He'll flick them up one after another, and with timing, you should be able to get your weapon's strongest attack off. My 2 biggest, most actionable tips are to A, make absolutely sure that the Dragonator is gonna hit, and he's not gonna do a move. and B, bring some smoke bombs and use them when he summons thunderbugs. If you time it right, none of them will see you and they will just despawn. If you're in a group, you can kill this guy in like 10 minutes. I wasn't in a group, so this took me over 45 minutes and I won by the skin of my disgusting dragon teeth. God, it feels nice to add something to the list again. It's been so long. So Yama's cool, has all cool weapons and armors, has a really cool theme song, and is pretty high up on my list of monsters that I love, that they refuse to bring back. Now, if you're going to do Tower Yama, my solo tips are these. Firstly, go up to the top and wait a whole 20 minutes until he gets up there. It's worth not engaging him in the actual siege part, trust me. Then, when he flies up to do the ultimate pancake move, run under him, count to 6, then immediately run in front of him. This'll give you plenty of time to attack his extremely weak mouth. As for the rest of the tips, most of them that worked on Siege Yama work on Tower Yama. Smoke bombs, whiskers, all that fun stuff. Tower Yama is super fun. Siege Yama is one of the worst mistakes I've ever bore witness to. Immediately after killing the old flapjack dragon, Old Timer looked to the next young whippersnapper making trouble on his lawn. High-rank rusted Kushala Deora. This quest was easy as balls, even solo. After grilling dragons to grind up to hunt to rank 50, it was time to prep for the end game. That meant getting that handicraft. After looking around at mixed set options, I came to the conclusion that the best route would be through the Velociprey U-Helm and handicraft jewels. The first one was simple because it needed easy to kill raptors. The handicraft jewels though, yikes. The only available option to me at that time was the one that required Monoblos hearts, which are pretty freaking rare. I was OP at that point and Monoblos was a low rank village monster, so after a long grind full of screams, the hearts were secured. The Toenail of Destiny now had white sharpness, and in Dose, white sharpness is 2 times the amount of damage as blue, so it's a pretty freaking big deal. I did have to sacrifice the bounce proof weapons though, which is a bummer.
But Pig, it says Mind's Eye right there. Your weapons do.
Yes, that's what I thought too, but I tried it and my weapon do be bouncing. So what does Mind's Eye even do? I don't know. The next section will be me making the best weapon in the game, period. The one that'll hopefully be able to shamelessly carry me an Old Timer all the way to Golden Corral, created with the Ancient Stone. Let me explain the weapon appraisal process here. In the game's code, there is a sequence. This sequence I will visualize on your screen with different colors. The white represents a boring, useless, stinky, dumb weapon. The blue represents a substantially less bad weapon, but still not worth your time. And the red symbolizes some of the best weapons in the game. Whenever you freshly boot up the game, the sequence is in this order. Every time you complete a quest or appraise a weapon, the sequence advances by 1. So say you start the game, complete 4 quests and appraise 2 weapons. The first weapon will be the somewhat desirable one, and the next weapon will be the undesirable one. Let's zoom out though, because we want the best weapons. The 23rd, 30th, and 31st in the sequence. The weapon we want is made from the Ancient Stone, which I found a lot of during the high rank Lao grind. My advice is to get 4 or 5 Ancient Stones, do around 28 quests, or appraise less good non-sword and shield and dual blade weapons, then refine all your stones back to back to back until you get the worn blades. The game also doesn't save your progress when you make these, so if you miscounted your spot on the sequence, you can just save without exiting, which I would advise. This game's taken too much from me, and if you're playing it, then it's probably taken too much from you too, so play dirty. From there, you can use 15 Kushala Deora scales to level up the worn blades into the weathered blades, and with 25 scales, into the enduring schism. That dragon element should speak for itself. This is one of the best, maybe even the best, dragon droppers in the game. I tested them out against a high rank Chameleios, completely neutered his invisibility by severing his tail and breaking his horn, and felled him in around 30 minutes. High rank Tiastra fell at around 20 minutes, and then my boy XDNH showed up. Said his catchphrase, noticed I had the broken dual blades, grabbed his own, and we both set out to spay the Emperor of Flame in 10 minutes. It was really weird fighting alongside XDNH instead of behind him. Normally this dude would hop in and carry me through a grind session and just be the ultimate homie through and through, and now we were standing side by side, ripping open this precious wildlife like hungry dogs. He then told me how to get a skull mask, which would be better than my current gear and I thought looked funny, charging me $2 and sending me back to Jumbo because I used all my handicraft jewels on the Velociprey helmet. Unfortunately, Dose didn't want you moving around jewels, so they decided by removing a jewel, you destroy it. In this case, destroying the 2 Monoblos hearts and 20 meteorites. Thanks, dev team. Back to Monoblos farming, Blood Run jewel farming, and now meteorite farming. Meteorite is something that I always had a surplus of because you naturally get them by handling villager requests, but now I'm out and I need to grind for more. So many people wanted so many menial tasks done for them, and whenever Old Timer showed up, they gave him a sack of rocks and said, "Thanks, sucker. I'm gonna go and drink Big Sister Lady Dragon's piss now." Eventually, after a long and annoying grind, I had enough to make 2 more handicraft jewels. Finally. Also, don't go and waste time like I first did on the sharpness jewel. There's a skill called sharpness, which I initially thought would give me the sharper weapon, but like most things in this game, that's a scam. Handicraft is the jewel that gives sharpness +1, and sharpness is what grants a relatively useless skill called razor sharp. Don't question it, just go with it. With a level 2 expert jewel on the mask, you'll unlock the bounce-proof weapons, and with handicraft jewels everywhere else, you'll get 1 point short of handicraft. Are you fucking kidding me? How is this still happening? Okay, so I hadn't realized it at the time, but when XDNH was showing off the skull emoji mask, I hadn't stopped to consider that the most broken dual blades in the game also have a weapon slot. I hadn't figured out my problem until the end, so if you want to go the strongest possible armor and weapon combination for this stage, here it is. This is a website called the Monster Hunter Old School Wiki, and on it there's a armor builder for Monster Hunter Dose. As you can see, the set can only work if there's 1 level 1 expert jewel on the helmet, and then everything else has handicraft, including 1 on the weapon. I decided that the Velociprey Helmet U with Mind's Eye and Sharpness +1 would be the thing that will carry me through the rest of the journey. And now, it's time to exact my ultimate revenge. Since Garuga's event hadn't looped back around yet, I was forced to run my ones with the monkey, running the dragon dual blades because I am an absolute buffoon. If you aren't aware, these dual blades are only good because of their monstrously high dragon element. And what monster happens to be completely immune to dragon? So that fight was a fail. My next fight was with the Death Prize Sword and Shield. Monsters in this game take extra damage when they're paralyzed, and Rajang happens to be unusually susceptible to paralysis, but the Death Prize just wasn't cutting it. The damage output just wasn't there, and while I do have much better survivability thanks to the Aurora's armor, this is still Rajang. Next, I would run it back with the Toenail of Destiny. It's far from optimal because the Toenail is also a Dragon Element weapon, but it's Dragon Element on top of boatloads of raw damage. And with white sharpness, it might just be the key to victory. Something that Rajang hits particularly hard with is this jumping Electro Ball attack, which is really dangerous when you're running a weapon as slow and bulky as Hammer. But when you start getting momentum, Rajang really starts to feel it. There were times that I was going band for band with the monkey. Perfect rolling moves that would normally destroy me. Fighting Rajang is like the ultimate test of skill, to measure just how far you've come as a hunter, pushing your game knowledge and reaction time to their absolute limits. Sure, there are still some bullshit moments where you have no choice but to watch 3/4 of your health bar vanish, but that's just the dose tax routinely kicking in. It would take a miracle to make it the rest of the way in this fight. Old Timer needed a lucky break, and after being pushed back to the base camp on a cart, he would get just that. He caught back up with Rajang just as the monkey was about to leave to another zone, when the old man hit him with a clean topple. Because of Rajang's size, normally when you topple Rajang, you can't follow up on it because he just rolls way too far away. But this was an enclosed cave, meaning every single hit of Old Timer's tornado swing landed, ending with a beastly golf swing. It was over. Barely 30 minutes passed when he got the capture. The monkey now belonged to Old Timer. Overjoyed, the old man sang and danced and cheered all the way back to the city. I captured because I thought it would be really funny if Dos would just throw me a bone by letting me keep him, but putting all your marbles on a 3% chance is really wishful thinking. The biggest wall to stand in my way in the challenge has finally been cleared, and we're sticking you straight into the highest possible realm of difficulty on our completion board. We're on the last legs of the journey now. The only thing standing between me and that coveted goal is like 5 in-game promotions. Old Timer will soon be able to retire knowing that he was the vessel onto which I subjected Monster Hunter's most brutal challenges. The hardest Monster Hunter game, with every monster beaten alone. We're on the last legs of our journey, guys. From here on is a lot of grinding and Dos finding new ways to fuck with us. Like this Kushala Deora taking a bath. My boy Luby and I spent some time talking about this series. He suddenly dropped due to cardiac arrest. That's what you get for sticking the event Garuga on me, you bastard. This Kushala Deora literally camped us out for 15 minutes. When I say things like Blenganga camped me out, I'm usually being hyperbolic for the sake of drama. But this Kushala Deora was literally untouchable the entire time he was over there. Even if one of us brought a gun, it still wouldn't have enough range. Here's a list of Monster Hunter games where the box art boy can camp you out the whole quest. Also, I must admit that a large part of the reason why I'm doing a solo playthrough is because I'm a very introverted person. And that's why in a lot of gameplay clips you see I'm still fighting alone despite having beaten a monster already. So in short, I'm not just a masochist, but a socially anxious masochist. Before initiating the endgame sequence though, I wanted to taste what regular Dos gameplay was like. So I joined this unusually large lobby and just hung out, helping people with their quests, and when it was my turn, working on my own. Monster Hunter Dos isn't nearly as painful when in a group setting. Seeing people make the same mistakes that you made is so gratifying, and it takes the pressure off you because when you're solo, if you fail the quest, you have nobody to blame but yourself, making the quest failed screen all the more stinging and personal. It's so much easier to have 3 other people to shoulder the blame with. Also, I can't tell you how weird it is being told by some of these people that they're here playing Dos because of my previous video. There have been times where I've been told that I got people into the Monster Hunter series, which never really registered until I actually saw these people in game and talked and interacted with them. I am very shocked I was ever able to make it to this point, so thank you all so much. I hope more people find these videos or any other Monster Hunter video on YouTube really and get into this series because it's just such a magical place. And for those of you that are absolutely insane that decided that Dos is going to be your first Monster Hunter game, good luck. After a fun session of hunting with Photon, Luby, and XDanH, it was time for me to say sayonara. I had reached Hunter rank 50, and it was time for me to take the final stretch of my journey alone.
Never travel alone.
The final round of Hunter exams were upon us, and they began with the game's mascot, Kushala Deora. Something completely noticeable right off the bat for this quest is normally when Kushala is in the snowy mountains are in this hurricane-adjacent state. But here I am, looking up at the mountain, surprisingly serene and still. The peace immediately goes away when we reach Kushala, but yeah, just a neat little thing I noticed. Well, I would love to say that after a long, treacherous journey, I stepped away with a newfound appreciation for the Dragon of Steel. I didn't. Kushala with his Dragon Wind is annoying as balls, and even when you disable the wind pressure, he still flies way too much for the fight to be fun, but it's whatever. Armed with the Toenail of Doom, Old Timer fought the Living Storm, and Old Timer won. Up next was a much harder foe. Chameleios is so tanky, and with such garbage hit zones, I cannot stress enough how much I recommend against taking the Toenail of Destiny. Take any fire weapon or the Eternal Schisms, they'll be your best friends. My only recollection of the Toenail attempt was having my inventory look like a skeleton because this dude just fucking stole everything he could, even the meat off of Old Timer's bones. That fight would go on to the 49-minute mark where I would cart and then end the quest at camp. If you fail the quest because a monster kills you, your inventory at the time of the monster killing you will be what you return to the hub with. Whereas if you abandon the quest at the camp bed, your inventory will revert to what you started the quest with. For example, if I had failed this Chameleios quest via timeout, I would have been left with an inventory looking like a Target Pokemon card aisle. But because I had returned from the quest, I got everything that was stolen back. Dose has plenty of incredibly hard to get items that disappear on use. So if a quest is looking bleak, remember that abandoning is always a good option. Before the run back, I headed to the tavern to do some target practice, which, as you can probably guess, is also annoying as hell with the dose control scheme. Basically hit everything until Gravios, and then hit Gravios. And after completion, you'll be rewarded with points that you can spend on items. Here, I wanted well done stakes, so I can rip the Chameleios open with dual blades. The second attempt went so much better, thanks in large part to the dual blades Heavenly Blade Dance. This move simultaneously does more damage than a Greatsword Charge Slash, and it doesn't get bounced by hard monster parts. After 40 minutes of quest time and dozens of blade dances, Chameleios was slain, laying there overlooking the Forest and Hills River. One monster remained in the volcano. Teostra, despite coming last, is by far the easiest monster out of the trio, and it's all thanks to the Golf Swing Stunlock. While he is overall more aggressive than the other dragons, he fell in only 20 minutes, leaving us having completed the final guild exam. The minister is shocked that a person of Old-Timer's caliber even exists, but Old-Timer's story is far from over. As he's the gassy old vegetable that killed the gassy old vegetable, the minister shares a story with Old-Timer, the legend of the Black Dragon, Fatalis. An eldritch horror monster that scorched the world in just a few days, a vacuum of hate and destruction, with a heart pulsing for the extinction of humanity. Far from the city of Dondorma is the kingdom of Shraid, a once bustling empire that was brought to its knees in one fell swoop. Humanity had gotten cocky with its new technology, creating artificial protectors with their wyvern milk, slaying millions of Kushala Deoras, turning it from a common creature into a rare dragon, using the scales they collected to build their civilizations, those same scales you can mine off the tower. Fatalis saw all of this disregard for nature and decided to retaliate, initiating the Great Dragon War. A war won in the span of days. Humanity nearly extinct, barely recovered. Now just out of the Stone Age, the guild vowed to lock away all knowledge of any creature with the power to end all life. Because they exist. Fatalis is still out there, and who knows when it will strike next. No one knows, and worse yet, no one can face it. Like a super volcano waiting to erupt and destroy everything ever built, Fatalis lays dormant. And when he becomes active, it'll surely spell death for us all. That is, until Old-Timer came around. For the sake of not just the city, but the whole entire world, the responsibility to end this living nightmare rests on Old-Timer's questionably capable shoulders. Old-Timer faced natural disasters before, but now he was up against an apocalypse. This will undoubtedly prove to be the hardest challenge yet. And so, he departed, with nothing but the well wishes of the Elder Hall behind him, with one goal in mind: to slay Fatalis. If there's any Monster Hunter 1 monster that really needed a rework, besides all of them, Fatalis is high up on that list. For starters, every single tiny movement he makes is a massive hitbox. A massive hitbox that almost always one-taps. You are lucky if a move only does 90% damage, because at least you didn't die. All his attacks are pretty predictable and memorizable, but the hitboxes, especially on the slithering move, are just crazy. He spends the fight alternating between two zones of this battlefield, and since I guess just walking over there would be too convenient, he'll at random choose 30 seconds to fly over to the other half of the battlefield, with the southern side of the zone having a gnarly spinning spiked Dragonator. Something that is really hard to hit him with, because he only moves with this one attack. Something that always confused me about the charade battlefield is the topology of the land. If you're at the bottom, it just seems like the battle takes place on the ground, but if you go up on top of the wall, you can see you are so far above the cloud layer. What even is charade? Just a regular kingdom, and then on top of this colossal flat mountain, they built a battlefield? This impossible, somewhat surreal topology kind of adds to the fight in a weird way. It makes the threat seem all that much more mythical or unreal. Fatalis, as I said, is a near unstoppable monster with the power to not only end the world, but also drive humanity to extinction, drive giant dragons like Lao-Shan Lung running in fear, possess people to turn into a Fatalis, and regenerate his entire body from just a scale. It wasn't until the 5th generation of Monster Hunter games that the original Fatalis that nearly destroyed humanity was finally canonically slain by the New World Star Hunter. Kind of funny that the end-all be-all of Monster Hunter is just this ordinary looking dragon. After some pretty embarrassing failures with the toenail, I decided to go with the Dragon Dropper dual blades, and from what it seemed, they were putting in so much good work. To give me infinite stamina, I would routinely combine a Mega Potion with a Maca Pot and vary it to create Mega Dash Juices. With Mega Dash Juices, I could Heavenly Blade Dance without having to worry about stamina running out. A combination of Heavenly Blade Dance and Mega Dash Juices are what really makes the dual blades the best weapon in the game. After repeated attempts, the strat I decided to stick with was actually very simple. If he's in the air, Heavenly Blade Dance his face when he lands. He takes an absolutely monstrous amount of damage when you hit him in the face. And after landing from flying is the only safe way to get in those precious hits. If he's flying high, stand under him until he does 3 fireballs. And if he's flying low, stand in front of him but far away enough so the fireballs can't touch you. Then when he lands, swoop in for the Blade Dance. For every single solitary second he's on the ground, always be standing relatively to the side and behind his foreleg, around this area. Here he can do nothing to hit you, and there's nothing you have to worry about except for roars and sometimes his tail. Do not underestimate that tail. There is a reason why the old gen Fatalis' tail is notorious. Occasionally it just becomes one giant Oko hitbox, and it's really hard to avoid sometimes. This fight is exceptionally hard to get, especially if you're solo. But if he's near the Dragonator and you manage to bait out a flying fireball, you might just be able to climb up to the Dragonator switch, doing the highest amount of damage possible. If you're lucky, the garbage Monster Hunter 1 AI can put him in a loop that you can exploit to completely shit on him, and at the end of the day, it was going to take skill, it was going to take luck, and it was sure going to take a lot of dedication and retries. Dedication that I knew was in me somewhere. As the hours passed and the feints racked up, I had no idea if I was doing enough damage. I didn't even know if it was mathematically possible with my current loadout, and there really wasn't much I could change, but maybe if I get at least one Dragonator off, there would be hope. And eventually, I got that chance. The battle continued on for what felt like forever, with both parties incurring massive losses. Oldtimer ripped Fatalis' eye out. Fatalis sent Oldtimer back to camp on a cart. Time was not on his side. The Fiend has a gargantuan 32,000 base health, almost 7,000 more than Lao-Shan Lung, and that guy's the size of a mountain. But that wouldn't deter the old man. He would come back a hero. His own death or retirement wasn't even a part of this equation. His journey had trained him up to become one with the monsters, a monster in his own right. And their battle raged on until... He had done the unthinkable. The living legend, Fatalis, was dead. And I was ecstatic, fully believing that it was impossible, yet sticking through with it anyway. Oldtimer had saved the world. from a living nightmare. Guild friends, rejoice! The fiend is slain. Humanity is safe. Tonight we rest easy knowing that the black dragon is now— shit. Fatalis survives and flees to the volcano, wherein he uses his magic black dragon powers to turn his scales orange and red. Now what is called a crimson Fatalis. Scales dyed red with anger, the monster seeks to exact revenge on Oldtimer for besting him in their first battle. Crimson Fatalis is a Fatalis subspecies brought to us in Monster Hunter Freedom, a game where every monster was given a subspecies for no reason besides why not. And luckily they made his fight so much more interesting, feeling nowhere near as stiff as the original Fatalis. Despite that though, the strategy for beating Crimson Fatalis is still the same. Hover around his hind leg and go for his face when he lands. And fellas, I'm proud to say that this quest is a 45-minute long victory lap that'll drain you down to like 4 wet zones. It's also funny that they made a separate base camp area but forgot to put a camp bed or tent in there, so you can't even abandon the quest if you want to. I'm pleased to announce though that both Fatalis and Crimson Fatalis are absolutely doable. After slaying the ultimate evils and reaching Hunter rank 51, Oldtimer gained the title of Monster Hunter, which I think is funny because it's the same as the game name. It's like entitling your Animal Crossing character Animal Crossing. XDanH appeared accompanied by his signature phrase, and after telling him of the amazing feat I had just managed to pull off, he responded, lol. So we decided we'd hunt a Fatalis together, since now obviously we would be capable of doing that. And it was during the fight that the same dread struck. With both mine and XDanH's repeated attacks, the Fatalis event quest ended after 45 minutes, almost to the quest timer. The Fatalis event quest, the final hardest quest in the game, is also an event quest. And that monster has the same health as Fatalis, enters a mode that cripples your damage against him halfway through. And just as I thought the rest of this journey would be a sweep, Dose throws another wrench into the mix. But let's not worry about that for now. I had to wait 5 days for the final quest to roll around, so in the meantime, it was time to defeat the remaining enemies. All of them were event quests, so I had to wait real-life days until they rolled around, but there was one available at the time. The first one being Silver Rathalos. But before I can talk about him, I have to talk about the requirements to reach him, because of course he has those. To get Silver Rathalos, you need to get the Explorer's Tools. And to get the Explorer's Tools, you need to combine the Explorer's Compass, Explorer's Map, and the Expedition Kit. The Explorer's Compass is a sub-quest drop from these specific quests. I recommend running the Shogun or Kirin, unless you're a total psychopath and want to deal with. The Explorer's Map is a sub-quest drop where you need to deliver a material called Dragon Stones, which you can get carving out of Lao-Shan Lung's back during his siege. I highly recommend having 4 people helping you for this, because most of the time, even with 4 people, the game is really stingy with its Dragon Stone drops. According to Garuga, if your hunter is female, you can wear this maid outfit, which lets you carve an extra item off of Lao-Shan Lung's back. So instead of 3 carves, you'll get 4, but the likelihood that all 4 of those carves will be Dragon Stones is highly unlikely. Still, I guess that makes 100% dose challenge with no human contact whatsoever possible, but only if you're a woman. The Expedition Kit is a drop from the quest The Azure Wyvern's Roost, which is a quest with its own requirements to unlock. Remember the lady in the Elder Hall prattling on about a dumb song? That's right, that was supposed to allude to you killing 3 Shakalakas in different zones, finding where the secret enemy, the King of Shakalakas, spawned, and then killing him and carving him for an 8% drop. An 8% drop that'll unlock Rathalos as an Elder Hall quest. Luckily, I was aware of the presence of these items and collected them all in secret as the story progressed, including the old song, which is a stupidly low drop for an already hard to reach monster. When the 3 gears are assembled, they produce the Explorer's Tools, which unlock the Ancient Tower's secret area. When outlining the rules of this video, I said subspecies were going to count because most of them are at most just a 5% health increase, but Silver Rathalos is a different case. he's a 10% health increase. I also just kind of assumed that he would be different based on the fact that even in Freedom Unite, he at least had the hard metal scales, but in this game, Silver Rathalos is just a Rathalos, but silver. His scales aren't hard and reflective, he's just Silver Rathalos. But why come all this way and make the Explorer's tools just to turn around and say no? This quest is actually quite difficult, thanks entirely to the blue Rathalos that they slapped in that is unable to leave the area. I also like the fact that when you die, you respawn in a circle of angry Giapre. Hey, that's the last small monster for the tier list. Wait, we're missing one. Perfection. Thank you for spitting on me and turning me into a snowman, hurtling to my doom. I greatly appreciate it. For the first 2 feints, I got utterly wiped, but then I found out the tech on the last one. Apparently, if you hug the west wall, there's a chance that only one Rathalos will target you, leading to a relatively easy and safe fight. At this point in the dose journey, even my game controller was fighting with me. That much dosage gave it C-stick rebound, which led to times where I'd have the perfect opportunity to punish a monster, and then my left C-stick would bounce all the way to the opposite direction. It didn't happen often enough to have really awful consequences, but I think it's funny how dose is applying pressure even to my game controller. This fight is also a shining example of Hammer having the dumbest hitboxes in any Monster Hunter game. So Azure Rathalos went down, with Silver following shortly thereafter. I would say it's sad that Silver is nearly identical to the 2 other Rathalos that are already the same exact thing, but it's whatever. Next up was the long-awaited Garuga rematch. I am almost entirely certain that this quest was made solely for high rank and they just on accident made it accessible to low rank hunters. This thing took me just under 40 minutes, even with my broken gear and weapon. But just like that, the longest standing rivalry has met its end, with Old Timer beating up the Black Wolf's dead, rotting corpse. At last, it was time for the penultimate fight at the Ancient Tower. With the Explorer's tools in hand, Old Timer sought out to bring down a gold Rathian, who, just like Rathalos, is barely different at all, and has her big back best friend in tow. This quest took me a lot of attempts due to a lot of skill issues and failing to get them separated. But eventually, Old Timer pulled through, and stood tall over the final non-elder's body, knocked out cold. This was the Toenail of Destiny's final quest. It got him as far as the finish line, and now it's time for the Eternal Schism to push him over. This last quest was going to demand absolutely everything from Old Timer. By far, Monster Hunter's most brutal, grueling, challenging hunt. And it started off great with Old Timer's feline chef mixing up the salt with cyanide. But that didn't matter. If he failed this time, he would come back the next time. He would get up no matter what it took. The final boss is Dose's strongest monster, but it's also the final obstacle keeping us from a completed challenge. To show just how serious I was about beating this thing, take one look at my item pouch. Like the Metal Wraths, the final monster requires a special item to be crafted before you can see him. The Ancient Dragon Tome. The Ancient Dragon Tome can be divided into 3 parts. The Tome of Finality, which you can get by completing these siege quests. The Tome of Legends, which you can get by defeating Rajang. And the Tome of Dragons, which you can get by beating Tower Yama or Crimson Fatalis. And luckily for me, I had gotten all of these just in time for the final quest to roll around. Old Timer came strapped with everything, from performance-enhancing drugs to improvised explosive devices. It was time for the final battle. From atop the ancient tower shone a blinding light. The ancestral dragon awaited. It had been a long journey up until this point. We made some friends. We made some enemies. Felt soaring high highs and abyssal low lows. This would be the moment that proves whether or not this challenge is even possible. Whether or not all the trouble was worth it. This would be either the greatest victory or the most heartbreaking defeat. Regardless, this is the end of Monster Hunter Dose. quest wastes no time, spawning right at the peak of the tower. White Fatalis is a DOS original monster, being largely the same as Crimson Fatalis, but being able to call down strikes of red lightning. They also fixed the Crimson Fatalis tech that made that fight easy as balls by giving the Dragon Lightning a chance to strike right behind the hind legs. But that wouldn't stop my strat, because the only other option to attack would be his belly, and even more so than his brethren, Old Man Fatalis just farts out Okos. And when he's really sick of fighting, he flies up to the tower's highest point and summons a hail of Dragon Lightning. This Dragon Lightning, controlled entirely via RNG, can either be the deadliest thing in the world, or something you can avoid by jogging in place. But the scary part is when he activates Armor Mode. Armor Mode is an old gen Fatalis exclusive, where all of a sudden every single square inch of the dragon's body becomes almost completely resistant to most attacks, with the blunt, hard surface wreaking havoc on your weapon's sharpness. Armor Mode is this monster's ace up the sleeve, because that combined with the event Fatalis' health, you know, the one that took 2 endgame hunters over 40 minutes to complete. If I saw my gameplay during that quest and was told that he was going to fight a stronger version of that becomes nearly invincible all on his own, I would call them crazy. But having fought White Fatalis in Freedom Unite and 4 and never winning, I knew there had to be a workaround. Bombs. If White Fatalis enters a state that makes him take 10 times less damage, what if I brought a surplus of items that, no matter what, always do a fixed amount of damage? They were always tricky to place at the right time, but when they hit, the bombs destroyed him. There was a catch though. All my items were extremely hard to come across, and if I had lost any of them without using them to their fullest potential, I would have to wait until a different season to get them back. And I did not know when White Fatalis would be available again. So my workaround for this was to not allow Old Timer to feint 3 times. If 2 feints happened, it was game over, and we had to abandon the quest. And I like the irony in this quest of, you know, most of the time you spend this entire game double carding and having to make the long, boring climb of shame all the way back up the tower, but for the final fight, that's reversed. I cannot stress enough how much every single last item matters in this quest. Because I had most of my inventory filled with damage maximizing items, there left room for only 2 healing items. The Mega Potions were to make sure chip damage and my own bombs would end Old Timer's life, and the Max Potions were to make sure his health was topped up at all times. He would pop one when the quest starts, and another one after he feints for the first time. It is not worth even attempting this fight without the health bar extension only a Max Potion can provide. For the food, I chose Wyvern Tail and Royal Cheese, as no matter what season it is, that combo always gives some of the best stat buffs, and as this is the cold season, that +5 to attack is the best it could possibly be. Starting the quest meant downing a Mega Demon Drug and 1 Mega Dash Juice, the perfect combo for infinite Heavenly Blade dances. Despite being able to harness it in a way we've never seen before, White Fatalis is still especially weak to Dragon. In fact, this is the only pure dragon attacker in the game, besides maybe Kushala Deora doing this move apparently, but that's never hit me, and if it actually did, it never gave me Dragon Blade. Dragon energy is an unusual element, and perhaps the most sci-fi part of Monster Hunter. It can strip your weapons of their elemental effects. It can exhume an Elder Dragon's power via Elder Seal. It can become a dragon in its own right. It can absorb the elemental energy from other monsters. Dragon can do it all, and for some reason, the Fatalis family is by far the most negatively affected by it. It goes so far as to having Iceborne's Fatalis, a monster that only flinches at grievous bodily harm, dramatically flinching away from just a tiny little pellet of it. What is it about Dragon that specifically hurts Fatalis so much? Maybe it's because it ebbs away at Fatalis' oceanic depths of power. Maybe it eats away at his mind like it does with Devil Joe, a monster whose own latent element is dragon before it drives him mad. It would make sense that a monster more ancient than time itself, more intelligent than any human, would steer clear of it. And despite his ability to control it, with his body glowing red with rage as dragon courses through him, there is no better element to run against him. 2 Heavenly Blade dances are enough to make him recoil in pain, before getting back up to dish out what was dealt. The final battle was long and arduous, and after many attempts of non-stop heavenly blade dances and suicide bombings, nothing seemed to work. An invisible tells for imminent dragon lightning gets a bit old, but it wouldn't be too long until a golden attempt rolled around. One where White Fatalis would enter armor mode in only 10 minutes. Armor mode is terrible, yes, but it's also a great indication on how much health White Fatalis has left. He enters into armor mode after half of his health is lost, and leaves it again when only 20% of his health remains. If armor mode could be reached in 10 minutes, it would take approximately 3 minutes to kill him once he leaves armor mode, which meant all that there was left to do was bomb, sharpen, and hope with everything that I held dear that I had enough supplies to weather this storm. The minutes on the timer dragged by, eating away at every whetstone, every bomb that I held. During my trials, I had found that the best place to guarantee the bomb hits without having them explode prematurely is placing them right here after his dragon lightning storm. More time would pass. I'd have an unfortunate feint at around the 35-minute mark, and at this point I was out of mega potions, max potions, down to 3 whetstones, and had to use up my last mega demon drug and mega dash juice. The feint would mean Old Timer was robbed of his food boosted attack, so at that point all that there was left to work with was blind hope that he could still pull through. My gameplay began to get sloppy as time would go on, and at this point all hope was waning. Even if I did manage to pull through the rest of armor mode, I only had 3 whetstones left to finish the fight on. Old Timer thought to himself, how can I even hope to do this? How am I to prove to this ancient dragon that I'm the oldest thing in existence, the superior old head? Hope would give way to doubt, and doubt would give way to despair. If Garuga himself hasn't been able to solo White Fatalis yet, what chance did Old Timer have? But just as he hit his lowest point, something changed. Something was different. He had noticed that his blades had begun moving freely once again, no longer clanking against hard scales. He swung on Fatalis, and to his delight, instead of sparks, blood would spurt from the dragon. He had beaten armor mode. The dragon had 20% health left, and the time remaining was 10 minutes. Oh my god, he's out of armor mode! 20% health! Oh no, don't die, don't do a move.
He's just repositioning. Okay.
Holy shit! Now the goal was clear. Could I slay White Fatalis with 20% health, with no items besides 2 whetstones? Everything began looking up again, as long as I didn't choke dramatically. As long as I didn't choke dramatically. Faced with just under 3 minutes on the clock, I used my last whetstone and glanced at my 1 lowly barrel bomb L remaining in the item bar, the only thing I had left. There was a decision to make. Race against the clock back down to the bottom of the tower and abandon the quest, saving all my items, allowing for another retry, or step back out onto the top of the tower and risk it all. There would be no saving what I had spent going into the quest if I chose the second option. Old Timer's health was low, but so was Fatalis's. In 1908, Jack London would write the short story To Build a Fire, a bleak story of a man succumbing to nature due to his own ego. 6 years before then, Jack London wrote the original version of that story, a version where the man went out into the cold Arctic winter, successfully built a fire, and survived to tell the tale. I bring that story up not because it parallels Old Timers in the way that its 2 needless journeys started with a naive challenge in mind, but rather because neither of them have a dog. That's right, every To Build a Fire reference in this video was to build up to one shitty joke. Throughout the entire Dose journey, there have been terrible trials, many I had thought to be impossible, yet somehow, as time passed, every single monster fell. Every single mountain would get scaled. They all seemed so much smaller than they used to look. Some fell after hours of practicing and rising to the occasion. Others went out quickly and with great ease. Some put up very little struggle, whereas others fought and charged and fireballed to the bitter end. But at the end of the day, the sole victor was Old Timer, the one who got back up. It never mattered the size, the strength, the titles given, or the unworldly power a monster held. To him, they were just memories to recount, mountains that he scaled, and he would realize that despite all the overwhelming odds, he was the sole victor. And now, only two remained. One was a monster, and the other, a monster hunter. White Fatalis dropped to the ground defeated, proving old-timers' mastery over what's often considered the hardest monster hunter game ever made. A true hero. A true monster hunter. My mission to solo every monster in DOS was successful.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
And I celebrated by immediately closing the game, finally free from this stupid self-imposed challenge. The challenge, despite its fleeting high points and abysmal low points, a resounding success. So why do I like Monster Hunter DOS? It's not because it's a paragon of good game design or that it's actually really fun to play. Obviously, it's neither of those things. What I like about DOS is that it makes you feel like just another cog in the machine. There are no handouts. Everything in this game has to be painstakingly worked for. You're a hunter just like any other that just wants to climb the ladder and make a name for themselves in this cruel, cruel world. You aren't some already well-known hunter to gawk at or fawn over. You're just some guy. The world doesn't revolve around you, but rather you're just a member of the world. Just another nameless hunter in the guild. And just like how the world doesn't revolve around the player, monsters aren't designed in a way that's conducive to fun gameplay, but rather the devs design the monsters in a way that feels real to them. Monsters would exploit an unfair advantage if it meant it would let them live. Monsters would just ignore you and run away from you if they felt like doing so. Monster Hunter DOS was just a game that a group of people wanted to make. Plain and simple. No appealing to a wider audience. No pandering to critics. None of that. And I respect the hell out of a game like that, even if it's not that fun on the player's end. This has been Pig. Thank you for sticking by in this train wreck of an experience. Hopefully the video isn't too horribly disorganized. I have almost 400 hours of gameplay footage that I had to sort through to write this script, and I wanted to get this video out of the way since it's been way too long since I uploaded last. I hope you can forgive the very long delay in uploads, but hopefully you can understand now why that is. I hope you like this challenge walkthrough lore explanation format that I took with this video. And if you did, please leave a like or comment or subscribe. Subscribe and stroke my massive ego. We're trying to surpass Mr. Beast by the end of this Tuesday, and we only have 11 to go, so do it. Thanks again. I'm gonna go count every grain of sand. Sorry for good quality.